Hello, you lovely lot, and welcome back to Who Knew, a Doctor Who podcast. I am your host, as always, Josh Carr, and it's the end, but the moment has very much been prepared for. It's the end of season 2. We've covered all 8 episodes, and now we're up for the finale. It's the reality war, and boy, have we got a lot to talk about. And fittingly, like the reality war, we've very much got an unholy trinity today. I, as usual, am your white boy podcaster who just wants therapy and a job in a cute coffee shop. And the other two parts of my unholy trinity, first of all, is a mysterious payday creator who has bi-generated into a Doctor Who creator and has then gone on to kidnap a little Australian wish baby to make all of our dreams come true. I'm joined, of course, by Troy and Crispypro from Who's There, a Doctor Who podcast. How are you both?
Yeah, what an intro. I love being the Aussie baby. Thank you.
Dumbfounded by that one. What on earth?
I love that.
I've
We
planned
are the
an
unholy
intro for the
trinity.
first time ever.
No Australian babies were harmed in the making of Who's There for legal reasons.
No.
Yeah, how
wow.
are you both? Are you okay?
I'm great.
good,
I'm
mate.
scared for the next 2 hours, but I'm great beyond that.
Look, we'll get through this. We'll get through this together. How are you, Crispy?
I am living that life right now.
Living
Chatting
that
to
life.
my boys.
Crispy's just woken up.
Chatting some Doctor Who. Yeah, I'm just woken up.
I should be in
That's
bed.
all right.
This is
Yeah,
the perils of
exactly.
recording across the world. But
Yeah.
we've gone intercontinental for the finale.
Mr. Worldwide.
Mr. Worldwide, indeed, Mr. 305. But we're obviously here to talk about the reality war. It's a hell of an episode to
Isn't
talk
it
about.
just?
One of the episodes of all time.
One of the true episodes of Doctor Who to ever episode. And I want to start off just very, very briefly, because obviously this is the last time I'm going to ask this. I've asked this on every podcast, is what have your thoughts on the series been so far? And you two have obviously got the most to discuss here, but just general thoughts. What have your feelings been about the series so far? Troy, we'll start with you.
I have really, really liked it. Like, right, I think, maybe a hot take, my only real faltering opinion was I wasn't the biggest fan of the season opener. I don't think it was terrible. It just did not grab me. And in the lead up to the reality war, I rewatched all but 2 episodes of Shooty's Run purely based on time for the cinema. Ironically, one that I skipped was Joyce the World, which ended up being far more important than I think any of us anticipated. But the Robot Revolution was one of the only episodes where my score went down. Like, I didn't like it that much the first time around. The second time was just like, this just isn't doing it for me. I don't know. As a season opener, it didn't feel super strong. But literally since Lux onwards, consistently strong. Like every single episode, there were great things too. I loved it. And even till the finale, because as I'm no doubt you'll introduce into, I am the reality war defender here. I am the enjoyer.
I think you may be. Crispy, what have your thoughts been on season 2 so far?
I had a really, really good time with it. I think my expectations were lowered because season 1, even though looking back, I do look back fondly on season 1, but it was not what I expected, because I expected to have this like really great launch point for new Doctor Who fans, and I don't necessarily think season 1 is that. But as a Who fan of 15 years now, it was great. I enjoyed it. But season 2 really upped the game with Ncuti. They upped the game with the companion until the finale. But I would say from Lux to story in the engine, I was like, wow, we might have a perfect season here. I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of Robot Revolution, but we had a brilliant run there. And then all this happened, and it wasn't. I don't hate it as much as I imagine.
And then all this happened
on Twitter.
Doesn't that just sum everything up?
Yeah.
Oh, bloody Twitter!
Oh, indeed.
But there was 3 weeks ago, I think everyone was like, "Damn, this might be like a top 5 season top 3 season for me." I don't know. How did you feel about season 2?
Look, I mean, obviously, I did join you on your podcast, Who's There, to talk about the story in the engine, which is
exactly
by far and away not just my favourite of the series, but my favourite of the era. maybe, if I don't know if we're including 14, it's up there with Wobbly Yonder for me. But The Story in the Engine is probably
Wow.
my favourite 15th Doctor story. And that has not changed in the following weeks. But in terms of season 2, obviously, please go back and listen to all of the reviews that I've done with my wonderful guests if you want my more in-depth thoughts. But I would say that I was very much in the same boat as you, Crispy, when it comes to my expectations, what I thought about series 1. And then going into season 2, I was then very pleasantly surprised because I'm actually a big fan of the Robot Revolution. So maybe a bit more keen on it than the two of you were. And then the following 4 episodes, I was a big fan of as well. So up until The Story in the Engine, I was like, this is a great run. A run of 5 really enjoy. Like, they go up and down a little bit, but on a whole, very, very enjoyable episodes with a couple of proper bangers in there for me. And yeah, then the final 3 have dropped quite considerably in my opinion. Like I said, I've covered them on the podcast, the previous 2 episodes, and we'll get into the reality war. But yeah, no, it's not maintained. But I was very much expecting that, I think, and I think I've said this whole series, like, I'm not wishing it to fail, but if the wheels do come off, I'm okay, because I got 5 good episodes. We'll get into whether I'm okay.
Yeah.
But
okay.
I don't know. Let's talk about the reality war. Did you both? Was it in cinemas? Well, oh no, it was the middle of the night for you, Crispy. Sorry, that was cruel.
It was not. My wish, if I was in this wish world and I had that wish baby, was that we did get a cinema release for this in Australia. But no, I watched this at 4 a.m. on Disney Plus. Thank you, Disney Plus.
Well, at least it looked nice, because it always looks good on Disney Plus. Looks better than it does on iPlayer, I'll tell you that.
Well, here's the thing. In Australia, what we used to do before the Disney Plus deal, we had it's on the ABC here, and there's an app called ABC iView. And I think up until quite literally maybe this year, everything you streamed on there was 480p. So I watched The Power of the Doctor in 480p when it dropped. That was me watching Jodie regenerate with about 7 pixels.
Oh my god!
So no, I will say Disney Plus. Whatever you think of the Disney deal, whatever's happening with the Disney deal, it looked fantastic. It was nice seeing it in beautiful 4K.
Yeah, I've been abroad when Doctor Who's been on and had to watch it on Disney Plus, and I was like, oh my god, Doctor Who doesn't look like this. Doctor Who
stunning.
Stops every 30 seconds because it's chunnering away on a taxpayer-funded BBC iPlayer. But
exactly.
Anyway, Troy, did you watch in the cinema?
I did. Yeah,
I did as well. And I love watching Doctor Who in the cinema.
Yeah.
I always find, definitely last year with Empire of Death, I definitely preferred the episode in the cinema. I think I have cinema goggles where anything that I watch in a cinema is just like 3 times better than it is when I don't watch it in the cinema. So I had fun last year. This year, I'm just going to dive in. I wasn't the biggest fan of this one, and having rewatched it since, I've maybe mellowed on a few points that were a bit more egregious when I was watching it in the cinema, but I'm still not vibing with it, unfortunately, which I'm very sad about, because like I said, we had a good start to the series, and I'm sad that it's not held up for me. But Troy, I know that, like you've said, you're a big fan of this episode. What were your thoughts watching it in the cinema?
I loved it. And interestingly, to your point of cinema goggles, I do agree to an extent, but my lowest, like my most pessimistic thoughts about Empire of Death were post-cinema screening. So I feel like I could still be quite critical of it in the cinema, and I've only... My thoughts on Empire of Death have improved in subsequent rewatches. It's still not the best finale, mainly for the second act. I don't mind. I love the first and third, but for Reality War, I just loved it right the way through. Like, I feel like I am just in the smallest camp, and I've had 2 tweets that have gone like semi-viral on Twitter. One was about Ncuti leaving and how upset I was over that, and one was about the Reality War itself. And I've had tons of insults. I've had slurs, people saying I'm on drugs, people saying I need to go outside.
I'm
it's
sorry
lovely.
to hear that.
It's
'cause
lovely.
You
I know
don't
it's
deserve
nice.
that for liking an episode of Doctor Who, do you?
Fella, I've
It's
talked
not
about
bad. It's not
Payday
that deep.
for like
It's not
nearly
that
10
deep.
years. I've heard it all. No. But genuinely, like, it's been nice to see people come to those tweets and be like, finally, someone who loved it. And it makes me feel happy that there are people out there, even though it's heartbreaking that there aren't that many. It's nice that some people did love it as much as I did. So I'm kind of like the champion of the positivity. And I always tend to enjoy most things more than the average person anyway. Like, I'm very much the optimist anyway.
Yeah.
So that's
I know.
natural,
I've heard
but
your thoughts on Rise of Skywalker, Troy. We
you
don't
have.
need to get into them here.
They're all just goofy
Why
space
is it?
movies.
Why is it every damn podcast we go on, they always bring up Troy's Star Wars ranking? It's insane.
I listened to it.
Let
I
me
listened
like
to it
my
a
laser
little
sword
while ago.
movies in
I
peace.
know. You can have fun. You can enjoy it. It's fine. But,
Thanks for your permission, fella.
but look, yeah, no, that's all a bit silly. I mean, this is just basically where we're at now, where everything has to be either the worst thing of all time or the best thing of all time.
Especially on Twitter. It's so... The way people responded is so heartbreaking.
I don't think the reality war is the worst thing of all time. There's definitely things that I like in here. There's things that I don't like. There's one particular thing which I have a lot of thoughts on, but we'll get into that.
Wait, is it towards the end of the episode, or is it something else?
It's the end of the episode.
Let me
Okay,
say
yeah,
it how
yeah,
Crispy
cool.
loves me saying it. There's the way I
That's
say it that
cool.
he loves, which is it the Billie Piper of it all?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Okay,
like
cool.
I said,
Yeah.
I don't want
We'll
to...
get that.
We'll get into that.
We'll definitely get into it.
I
Crispy,
got
what
thoughts.
were your thoughts on the episode as a whole?
Well, look. So you brought up the term cinema goggles. I had a completely different experience. I felt like, getting up at 4 a.m. I just had like the biggest headache, and I was like, "What am I doing? This might be the last episode of Doctor Who I watch in years, but we'll see." But anyway, it's fun. Getting up for the power of the Doctor was like such a surreal experience. So doing it for this one, which we weren't even sure was a regeneration. Like, I had no idea how this episode was going to end. And it was scary, logging into Disney Plus. And I was like, I could just hover over the last little couple frames here on the timeline and see if this is a regeneration or not. But I didn't. It was an absolute fever dream. This episode was an absolute fever dream. But there's some stuff I really, really like. There's some stuff that absolutely baffled me. But yeah, I think a large part of the conversation has been the end. I think that's really overshadowed a lot of other stuff in this. But there are some baffling decisions in this episode. But I gave it like a 6.5 out of 10 on my review, which is much lower than a lot of the rest of the season. I think Robot Revolution's only below that. So I don't know. The finale last year was kind of the warning sign for this year, and I expected a little more because I actually enjoyed Wishworld. I actually had a great time with Wishworld. And I was just praying that we were going to stick the landing, and I don't think they did stick the landing. I don't think they did. But I don't think it's the most offensive piece of media ever.
No, I mean, my feelings on Wishworld were I wasn't sure what to make of it because I was like, well, this is so clearly half a story. It's not like that. I mean, my main criticism of it was like, I just don't think this stands up on its own for me as an episode. It's not like I could go and watch Utopia or Sound of Drums or Bad Wolf and not have to watch the second part to enjoy it. But I feel like this is very much one of those two parts where it's like, you have to double bill these.
Absolutely,
if you're going to get enjoyment out of it. So I wasn't sure. I mean, I think I enjoyed it a bit more in the cinema, but when you're watching it on a big old screen with a Tango Ice Blast, you're gonna. So,
oh yeah.
I mean, let's get into it. What I want to do is I want to try and focus, because like you said, a lot of the focus has been on the end of the episode and the last 5 seconds. And I've already done a little bonus podcast about that, which were about my thoughts on the rumor before it was confirmed with David Chibnall, because we chatted about it before we knew it was happening.
So you knew about it?
I'd seen the leak. I mean, I think it actually hit
crazy.
a couple of
Is everyone
tabloids.
hearing about this?
Yeah, that's where my mom heard
This
it.
was like,
Yeah, it hit the tabloids a few days ago. So it's been flying around. But I thought it was a bit of a nonsense rumor. To be honest, I didn't believe it at all.
Yeah,
it does sound like a bit of nonsense.
I famously said on Who's There on our live stream that I saw the rumor and went, that can't be true. It's got to be rubbish. And then about halfway through the episode, particularly the bit where Ncuti is on the speeder bike flying through, his theme's blasting, everyone's assembled. I was like, this feels like a culmination. And that rumor suddenly went from nonsense to, oh God, it's going to happen, isn't it?
That's
like
funny.
There's a non-zero
you
chance.
say that because the minute he stepped onto the helipad, I was like,
yeah,
full circle.
Full circle.
He's come back to where he started.
Wow.
Oh, I was like, oh, he's going.
And can we make sure that later on I make an argument? One thing I love about this episode is how many things feel full circle. I know we can definitely debate the nature of reshoots and all that stuff, but whatever was or wasn't reshot, I honestly do think this episode is a really good full circle moment for the whole era. There's so many connecting points and weaving threads that I adore.
That's what I was saying.
We can get into that.
I think I've covered the Billie Piper stuff a little bit before I knew it was happening. I do obviously have more things to say, so we will talk about that in a little while. But I actually want to focus on the episode itself because I feel like that is getting drowned out.
We can't let it overshadow this
and
podcast as well.
Yeah, there are good things. There are good things in here. You talk about full circle moments. We'll kick off with the start of the episode and the resolution of the cliffhanger. Anita's back. That was fun,
and the world was much better for it.
I actually really enjoyed that, and I loved Anita. I wasn't a big fan of Joy to the World personally, but my favourite part of the episode was the Anita stuff, and I thought, oh, this is like the kind of thing that could sustain a full special. But
yeah,
I really enjoyed it, and I thought the Time Hotel is a neat little way. You know, it's a pre-established thing in the series. It's a neat way to have us hop from location to location really quickly without having the TARDIS.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought it was quite nicely weaved in.
Yeah.
I agree. Anita was absolutely the highlight of Joy to the World, and apparently this leaked as well. Like yesterday, I went on Reddit and everywhere, and all of Confused Adipose's YouTube videos, and just looked at everything that leaked this season because I think I avoided quite a lot of it. Quite a lot of it. Apart from the Midnight Entity, it was the main thing that got spoiled for me.
Yeah, that got spoiled for me. Yeah.
Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. But that was an absolute. I was going to say joy, but it was an absolute pleasure to see Anita again. Which I was like, yeah, sure, why not? It's very convenient, but I was like, yeah, it felt exciting. Did it get a cheer in the cinema when Anita rocked up?
A little bit, yeah. It got a little bit
more
of a shock. This is a fun thing we can regale Crispy with the cinema.
Yeah,
reactions.
tell me this cinema experience.
There were giggles at every "I'm in a hospitality, I'm just a hotelier" comment. All those got laughs.
She got the most laughs.
Yeah.
I think she definitely got the most laughs as well.
Yeah,
as
definitely.
I think Kate got a few good laughs. I think it was when she
now
got,
you're
this
going
is just
too far.
much. Yeah, that got a good laugh in my cinema as well. What also got laughs was Anita jumping into previous episodes of Doctor Who, which was actually a really funny gag. I will say,
love it.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh, this is a good start. This is actually really funny. I mean, so criminal that is the only appearance of the Daleks in the 15th Doctor's era, and it's an archive clip.
We've got to talk about all that as well because something definitely happened behind the scenes, but we could talk about that.
About £1 for every time this fella has said that to me in the last 48 hours.
Something's happened.
I honestly still don't think it's as scandalous as people make it out to be. And again,
we're getting scandalous. Wait 10 years, mate. We're going to get a whole book on it.
We'll find out. Maybe. Maybe we never will. Yeah, I just think it was a fairly solid start. Also, all of my confusion about the mechanics of the Wish world were all sort of wrapped up in that scene with Anita and the Doctor in Poppy's room as well, where it was like, oh, it's going over and over and over to make it thinner and thinner and thinner until it snaps. I was like, okay, it's a bit of flim-flam, but I can get on board with that. There's things in Doctor Who that I've nodded along with that are much more egregious than that. So I was like,
absolutely,
yeah, okay. That's sort of the life of a Doctor Who fan, is they will tell you the most ridiculous nonsense you've ever heard in your life, and you go,
oh yeah,
that works. That's fine.
Yeah.
And then we get that very cool scene. I will say it again, utter nonsense, but the very cool scene of the Doctor going down the stairs, just willing a fit into existence, which
I
you know,
think Ncuti Gatwa can just do that. I don't think that was...
I don't think that's the
loved.
Doctor. That's Ncuti. Ncuti can do
that's
that.
Ncuti Gatwa. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
He
It's
just
like,
does that. Yeah.
This suit isn't doing it for me now. Kilt. There you go. He can.
And honestly, fair play
skill.
to him. The dude makes anything look good.
He
Anything at all.
does.
Yeah. Absolutely.
If
Oh wow,
there's
we've seen
one
every Ncuti Gatwa
prevailing
fit now.
thing-
That's it.
Stop.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's had more fits than episodes, which
It's true.
I mean,
True.
he's
Wow, what a legacy.
I did count earlier on. I'm pretty sure he's had about an average of 2 outfits per episode this season, which I think does level it out.
Yeah,
Troy
that works.
looks so sad. I feel so bad. I feel so bad making you sit through this conversation, Troy.
No, it's not
what
that.
We're
It's
get
just
to.
the thoughts of the shoot era being over. Like
I know
I
it's really sad, isn't it? It's really sad.
Gone too soon. Gone too soon. It's because something happened behind the scenes, Troy.
Chrissy,
It wasn't supposed to be this way.
A threat to violence allowed on this podcast, Josh?
Oh yeah, you can say whatever the fuck you want.
Crispy, I'm going to kill you.
No,
I'm going to kill you.
Wait. We made a bet. Did we put?
What was the bet?
I can't remember. We put a. I'll have to watch the
We'll
live
have to watch
stream
our
again.
Who's There episode. Which
No,
find
no,
out
I
what the
can't. I
bet
can't
was.
remember. I swear we made some kind of bet. Anyway,
did make a bet.
Like, ever since we've recorded, I swear I've just been gathering so much intel that something happened behind the scenes. But that's not what we're talking about. Let's keep talking about the episode.
I know, this is
I don't
the big
want
one.
to hear it. I don't want the bubble burst.
This is the. There's 2 massive elephants in the room that we're really, really trying. There's actually
you.
about 50, there's like 5 elephants in the room that we're
Bone beasts. Call them
we're
bone
trying
beasts.
to build up to bone. But let's talk about bone beasts. There you go.
Yeah,
Cool, aren't they?
Yeah.
they're pretty cool. That's
Yeah.
that's another. Like, I mean, the music's epic. Like shooting on that whatever Rani's glider thing. I was like, yeah, Doctor Who's ridiculous, but this is cool. That I feel like that's like the most cinema. That felt like something
fantastic.
you'd watch in the movies. Like, what was that like on the big screen? Seeing this like
It
30-second
actually did.
Bone
It
Beast
looked-
battle.
because in the cinemas we get the same version that you get, the lovely crisp, beautiful version that you get on Disney Plus.
Mine's more crisp than usual.
Well, of
than
course,
other
because
people's.
you
Yeah.
are the Crispypro.
I'm
so
the
everything-
professional crisp. I'm a
This guy.
professional crisp.
But I thought it looked great. I did have a note about that, about the action. I thought that like the action set pieces, like everything in unit, like shooting, flying.
Fantastic.
The episode, like it looked great.
Yeah.
And
It was a good looking one.
and it held up on telly as well. It looked good. It looked decent. I have a few issues about how some scenes were directed, if I'm getting nerdy, if I'm getting into blocking territory, but I don't want to go that deep. But it's just deep nitpicks. Troy looks so angry.
Troy, we
Poking hole.
Troy, what? There's been some shocking blocking, but that's fine. That's fine.
If I'm going to mention a particular scene which I struggled with a little bit, because of its potential.
Yeah.
I mean, if we work our way through to the scene, we obviously get Ncuti in Unit Tower, sort of bringing everybody back into their real selves, and Eater's holding the door open.
Yeah.
We'll come back to her probably when she stops holding the door open at the end of the episode. One note I wrote was just get the Vlinks away from me.
Why do we
Go
hate the
away.
Vlinks?
I don't. It's very
Why
much a
does
bit.
everyone hate the Vlinks? I get
it's
the
a
fella doesn't
bit.
do much.
I've
Troy, it's a
decided to
bit.
make it a bit. I've decided to make
I
it a
don't-
bit. But the
I don't
Vlinks is
get
my
it.
worst enemy.
There's too much hate in this fandom as it is, man. Pick your targets.
I'm sorry, Vlinks. I'm sorry. I am
I don't
now
like
a
I don't
Vlinks
like the
apologist.
Vlinks. What's the Vlinks ever done?
Yeah.
What has
and
the
looked
Vlinks
good.
ever done?
we basically
looked
get the reuniting of the whole unit team. They're all microchipped. We won't get into the ethics of that.
Yeah.
Or,
Wow.
You know, what in the Black Mirror is going on there? But they're all microchipped. They all come back.
Amanda Waller.
Hopefully, consensually, at the very least, microchips. Let's put that out there.
Let's hope Kate's not just microchipping children for fun. And
I think Unit could use you.
she's just that woman's in the playground again.
Yeah.
I will say, can I just get a slide of positive? I think Kate's
Go on.
I've enjoyed Kate on screen in this season more than I have in a very long time.
I would
Not to say I
agree.
don't like her at all. I love the character, but I
Yeah.
feel like, especially in Lucky Day, she's had so much more to chew on.
She stepped up a level this series. I think
Yeah,
definitely
she's been
Lucky
so
Day
good.
was basically them selling to me the idea that Kate Stewart can lead a spin-off, and I was like, okay, I can.
If only
I
there were
could
one
see
coming
Kate
out.
Stewart. That would be interesting. Oh Christ, I've not even got that in my running order. That's too much to talk about.
Start
Too
of our
much
live
going
stream
on.
went, look, we know there's a spin-off trailer. It's not happening today, people. Just not doing it.
It's a strange time to release that because that's getting drowned. Mel's motorbike helmet gave her a perm, I guess.
Yeah, that's
Bizarre.
awesome.
So
Yeah.
bizarre.
That's
What was
so
going on there?
cool.
I mean, Mel basically has the same powers with her hair that Ncuti has with clothes. Are we
It
just
was
agreed
actually,
on that?
it was
Yeah.
just her helmet went, look, you need to have hair similar to how you were the last time the Rani was in Doctor Who. So we're just going to automatically make that happen while you're riding somehow onto our top floor of the unit tower.
Beautiful.
I don't
It's-
care.
You know what?
She looks
Exactly.
Troy, you've absolutely nailed that. I can guarantee you they were like, oh no, we really should have like a cheeky callback to Time in the Rani.
The Rani will
And
recognize
they've
it
just
because of the
ruined
hair. Yeah,
The continuity person
Yeah.
has just flipped the table
They-
and been
they
like,
cut-
sure, whatever.
They cut out the 10 minutes where the Doctor and Kate are just waiting around for Mel. And they're just like
Yeah.
watching her on the tracker. And it's like, where is Mel? It's
Yeah.
like,
Where
she's
is
in a
she?
salon like down the road.
Yeah.
It's ironic
She's just
because
getting a
Unleashed
perm.
focused this week on costume and like costume checks between takes. So just imagine the costume director going, "What's happened to her hair? Oh, forget it,
What?
forget it."
Forget it. Screw it. God damn it.
So they build this up. They get everyone into the one room. And in my eyes, I feel like Troy's going to give me daggers through this entire section, and it's fine. You
It's
can do
all right.
that, Troy. Get it out.
all
Get
right.
it out of your system. This is where some issues with the episode and also the era come into play for me. In that
dear.
this episode is going in overstuffed. We already knew that an hour to wrap up everything that was set up in the past few episodes, the past series, last series, the 60th anniversary, going back that far, everything that's been set up from then is leading to this episode, and we've got an hour and 6 minutes. I said last week, I cannot envision a world where I am satisfied with every resolution.
Yeah.
I just don't think that works. I
Mhm.
think this is just a Doctor Who finale problem at the minute, where it's very ambitious and it's cramming a lot in, and maybe some things fall by the wayside. I would prefer them to just strip things back a little bit. That's just a personal preference. But that's my issue is, I understand you've got to go full circle, you've got to close out the era, but when you've got so much to deal with already, bringing in so many characters that do not do enough to justify their inclusion and don't contribute enough to the story, in my opinion. Like Mel, for one,
Yeah.
does a bit, doesn't do that much. Rose Noble comes back, gets like 2 lines, and I genuinely can't even recall if we see her again or if she's just stood in the background. Shirley gets a little bit to do. Susan Twist gets a bit more to do. Susan Triad, I'm getting
Which
the
I love.
actress's
I'm
name.
so glad we got to see Susan Triad be Susan
Yeah,
Triad.
We got
I
Susan
lapped
Triad.
that
We've
up.
got a bit of Susan Triad. Colonel Ibrahim does a bit of shouting. Anita holds a door open for 40 minutes.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I wish Ibrahim could have like stood, like in Legend of Ruby Sunday when the time window just breaks and everyone falls over, but he's just stood there firm holding a pistol and doesn't even flinch. I would have loved if like the Bone Beast like fired something at the tower, everyone fell over and he just stands there firm again. Just like,
just
I will
some
not be
ongoing bit.
moved.
Yeah. It just typifies my issues with the era is that I just don't feel like I know most of these people enough. And I don't feel like we've had enough time with them. I don't feel like I know them all as characters, because I feel like so many times we've been stood in this room and everyone's just talking. Like Lucky Day was a different beast for Unit in terms of that, but you had to take out the entire element of Doctor Who as a show to make it work.
Yeah.
And then we've basically got this big scene, which is about 10 minutes of just info dumping and exposition, which is fine. I get that Doctor Who is the kind of show where sometimes
It
You've
was a lot.
gotta
I remember
do-
watching this and being like, there is so much exposition.
yeah, we've got a lot to go through here. I get we've got to chat, but it was just like that's what I watched Mr. TARDIS's video about blocking, so it was on my mind, and I was like, we're all just stood still talking for 10 minutes, and it upsets me because the actors are doing such a good job with what they've been given. Ncuti and Archie Panjabi especially, I was so engrossed in watching them on screen, but then I'm also just got my eyes on the 17 people from Unit who are just stood sort of just watching, like, and at some point I'm like, when do I become one of these people? Am I just stood here watching? Am I just one of these Unit employees in the background?
You're sat there at the cinema.
And yeah, it just made me a bit disappointed because I was like, I'm really enjoying the interaction and there's some really good stuff in here. Like I was really intrigued about all the stuff about the Time Lords being sterile now. I'm not big on Time Lord lore and it doesn't massively interest me all the time, but that was actually an interesting element. And sort of touching on how bigoted the Rani is and her opinions regarding humans and how the Doctor's worldview and the Rani's worldview don't line up. Yeah, it just felt a little bit bland and a little bit static to me when the actors are really elevating it to be watchable and enjoyable. And yeah, that was a big chunk, and it fell a bit flat for me. I don't know what you guys thought, but
no, well that was the first kind of warning sign for me, being like, I don't know if we're going to necessarily stick the landing, because as soon as they brought Rose Noble back, I was like, is she just going to stand in the background this episode? Yes, she is. I think they brought her back to make a point that Conrad's like an absolute dick because he doesn't consider her. Yeah, but that's like, she was just a plot device. She's not a character in this. Yeah. She was there just to make Conrad look bad, and yet he gets the happy ending anyway. So, and yeah, Shirley's underutilized. Mel, that one really, really disappoints me because, as I said, I just watched Time in the Rani for the first time in preparation for this, and I was like, let's have a showdown. Let's do something. Let's, Mel, come along on the adventure.
They have that little exchange, don't they?
They have a teeny tiny exchange, and then, which is fine. Like, it's great, and that's like, if you're a classic Doctor Who fan, I hope that was satisfying because that's all you get. I don't know. There were a lot of things to explain, and then they gave us some Time Lord lore and explained by generation, which I'm like, sure, okay. But yeah, they do just sit and chat for a few minutes, and then Mrs. Flood comes into the room for a second, and then she's out of the room, and then I can't remember what happens after that.
Well, I think that's when the action all starts, and we touched on that. I think that's when it all goes a bit shooty, blasty. Let's get these big bone boys out of the sky, and
hell yeah,
I did enjoy that. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah. And I think one of the reasons I enjoyed that, I was like, oh, okay, we're getting into it now. And we're getting into the action a little bit. The Ranis, how did we feel about the Ranis in this episode?
Troy, you go.
And how they were handled?
I liked them. And I also think there's something to sell about, just on the 10-minute scene, I think there's something to sell about people just being in a room doing that dialogue and still being hooked on the performance, because I certainly was. I felt like they got through quite a lot. I didn't feel like I felt like there was some pretty good balance in there, and I like that we got the tiniest shred of confrontational Belinda over I'm not losing Poppy, and she was she really put her foot down over that, which I liked. I felt like we got a little bit of that confrontational nature from Belinda that we'd lost from the last few episodes. That was great. But the thing that was interesting about this episode was there's been a lot of arguments about pacing and things being chopped up or spliced together. Like in the cinema, the beauty about being in the cinema watching an episode is, unless you're an idiot, you're not sat on your phone. You're watching, just trying to get absorbed by the story. And I really liked that because I could sit there thinking, I know this is an hour long, but at no point did I think, this is happening a bit quick or this is happening a bit much. In fact, if anything, when it got to, as we'll get to later, the scene with the cop with the jacket folding up, I was like, I feel like we've already had an hour. Is there much more left? I actually felt like it had been...
Yeah, and we'd only really been about half an hour, 35 minutes in.
Yeah, about 40 minutes in, which was crazy.
And that is true. I do think that is true, that in the cinema, I was like, I still had my issues about the way the scene looked, and I was like, I feel like there was a bit more of an interesting way that you could have gone about this that highlights the material a bit more, because I think, like I said, the Dr. Rani confrontation, their dynamic, them two acting at each other and sort of going at odds with their with their ideologies was great, and I would have like if that was the basis for a whole finale, maybe I would have enjoyed it more. But again, because it's that, and then I feel like it's there for a minute and then it's gone, and that's sort of a lot of the things that I love about the finale are things that are there for a moment, and then because there's so much to go through, it's gone before it's even got a time to breathe.
Right.
And watching it in the cinema, I agree, it felt a little bit better. It was when I was watching it for this and making notes, and I was like, I made my initial note about that scene where I was like, okay, I remember this scene. I was like, I know I had my issues about how it looked. And then I was like, I haven't really got any notes to make. And I was like, 10 minutes has gone by and I haven't made a note. And I was like, and I feel like that's because I've just been listening to a lot of stuff.
Is that not, could you spin that in a positive state? Say you were in, like hooked on what they were saying though? That you were so busy trying to like pick up what they were saying that you didn't want to stop to write a note? Because you could say it that way.
Maybe, but I don't know. I don't think I was, like I said, I wasn't, I was just sort of, it was sort of washing over me is how I could describe it. It was sort of just, I was a bit glazed and I was like, okay.
But as for the Rani of it all, I mean, yeah, well, if you actually go to like episode length and you go to like minute by minute and who had how much screen time or whatever, I'm sure you can make a case that there wasn't enough of the Rani. For me, I liked that we had the confrontation scene in unit. We got to see her kind of, as you said, cheering up and acting all superior. I feel like we got a lot. Like, I don't know tons about the Rani. I've seen a bit of time in the Rani, so I've got a bit of an impression from that, and also just like reading up a bit about the character since. And I felt like the key parts of her character were portrayed, I think, fairly strongly in there, like her attitudes and her thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, if you had a checklist, sure, they did Rani, they did the Rani, they got it.
But I felt like there was a good amount of her. I feel like there was a lot to handle. I think if you really want to argue for a villain that didn't get enough time, which I have my own thoughts on, then obviously that would go to Omega. But I think there was still, with everything else they had to juggle, I think there was quite a decent amount of Rani stuff in that. I think my only disappointment was, I kind of saw it coming that Mrs. Flood would be played for comedic relief. I'm not too surprised by that element. But the setup in Wishworld of her being annoyed at doing all like the busy work for the Rani, and being like, oh, can I cut your toenails? I thought there might have been something like that. I guess the only payoff you could kind of say was her just going, well, she's been eaten. I'm not joining her on this crusade. I'm out. And here's a two Ronnies joke that no one outside the UK is going to get. Goodbye. Which I liked. Don't get me wrong, but I couldn't help but think most people who watch this are not going to get that.
I was like, there is a small possibility that joke was the first thing that got written, and then it was like, oh, we've got to bring
work
the Ranis
backwards
back.
from there.
Oh, my
yeah, work backwards from the two Ranis joke.
But, but yeah, I think it would have been nicer to have something a bit more like authoritative from Mrs. Flood. But I think, the whole time since Archie's took over as like the main Rani, she's kind of felt like the insubordinate. So it's just kind of like a whatever. So that bit I don't love. But I really like what we got with Archie. And when she got eaten, I was shocked. Obviously, I was like, whoa, they've dispatched her. Like, okay, right, cool. But my first thought wasn't, I didn't get enough of her. I felt like there was a good amount of her. I like long term, I would love to have had more of her in future episodes. But in the context of this story, I didn't feel like, oh, they've cut her off way too soon. I thought like she got enough. I was all right with that. Would have loved more, don't get me wrong, but I didn't feel to go like, oh, she could have had another like 5 scenes before they did that. I didn't feel that personally.
Yeah.
Well, I think. Well, I mean, it was like a shock. It was like you just said. It was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they did that. Which I think, like they did cut her time short, which is like whatever. But I think this episode would have gone up a whole point for me, an entire grade, if Mrs. Flood like pushed her or something. Like, just if they did that, I was like, I would have been like, yeah, all right. And then it's like the shock death of it, like, I just, and like it pays off. Mrs. Flood, as you say, kind of being like serving this Rani and being like, I am a Rani, what am I doing? And then like just getting rid of her and being like, all right, and then setting up Mrs. Flood potentially if she ever comes back as the Rani. Because I just truly thought we were going to have a Return of the Jedi moment, the Darth Vader throwing Palpatine down, whatever that was. I really thought we were going to have something like that, but no, I mean, I've said it throughout the entire series. I was so excited for Mrs. Flood and this entire 2 years we've been leading up to this, and then she vanishes with the two Ronnies joke. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. If she had just pushed this other Rani, I think that would have done a lot for me, and it would have worked for the shock value, and it would have worked for her character more. But that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, and I think, Mrs. Flood has overall baffled me a little bit in terms of the execution of it. It's just, I feel like I've made this point, and I get the argument that like different incarnations of Time Lords can be different, but I'm like, I don't really see any like real connective tissue between Mrs. Flood and the Rani. She doesn't seem that invested in the plan. She's just subservient to this other Rani. She didn't seem to act anything like the Rani beforehand. And obviously, we've got no explanation for the fact that she can break the fourth wall. And the fact that she escapes makes me think, okay, maybe she's coming back. I just think it's a bit of a missed opportunity for me, because I think Anita Dobson was great. I loved Anita Dobson in all of her appearances. I thought she was a really fun presence on screen. She was great in these 2 episodes. Like, even though I wasn't a fan of what she got to do, I thought she would have been a good villain in her own right without being the Rani.
She could have
been the Rani, or she could have been something else. She could have just been Mrs. Flood. Mrs. Flood could have just been the villain. And I don't know. I felt a little bit disappointed with that. Again, this is the thing. It's just I don't hate this episode. I just got lots of disappointments, lots of things where I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. That could have been really good, but I feel like it didn't fully deliver.
Agree.
Omega. Let's touch on Omega. We've still got so much to get through. Omega.
We've barely scrapped the first 15 minutes.
I know. How did we feel about Omega's return? Troy, you mentioned you had your own feelings about that.
What my feeling is very much on how they used him, and I think, and again, you have to forgive me for not having tons of classic knowledge, but again, I have a lot of gaps filled in. I know stuff from when I was a kid, just haven't always seen all the episodes relevant. But I'm aware of like how big of a threat Omega is, and I think the level of the threat was accurately portrayed. However long he was there, I felt the threat from how he was talked about, how it was presented, that this was someone you needed to worry about. And I personally think the way they handled it was better than the alternative, because one of the biggest arguments is Sutekh showed up in Legend of Ruby Sunday for a cliffhanger that some loved, some didn't, whatever, but then didn't do very much in Empire of Death. You know, everyone's dead, I'm just going to chill. Oh no, now I'm getting absorbed by the time vortex. Like, he didn't have much to do, whether you like it or not. I would not have liked that to have happened again with Omega, and I personally quite like that this is a Time Lord that is such a tyrant who wants to be a god, which is very fitting with the whole Pantheon thing anyway, and is clawing his way out of literal hell. And before he has a chance to get fully out and really cause chaos, he's pushed back in. It's like, we have to stop you. Because had he come out for 20 minutes to do a bit of chaos, it's then they have to invent some kind of Deus Ex Machina to go, right, let's push him back in again. And I just think that would have worsened it. I think if you'd have given him a bit of time to recover and then undone it, like a reset button, because it's commonly argued Russell loves the reset button, I don't think that would have worked for something that was meant to be so imposing and threatening. So the fact that he was a threat, he was important to the plot, the Rani wants to create a new Gallifrey, she's someone who likes these experiments and feels like superior and all this stuff. To use him for that and his power makes sense, and then as he's coming out as this threat to go, we've got to stop you before it goes too far, and he just pushes him back into hell. I really loved that. I thought that was a really good way to handle it, because then, at least to me, it doesn't feel like you've trivialized him. The only thing that could be argued, obviously, is he was CGI big guyed again, like Sutekh, which different people have different thoughts on. My mum see both designs. She preferred how he looked in the Reality War. For me, I'm like, I can see both. I actually kind of liked the bony kind of clawing out demon thing. I kind of liked that, although I did worry at first when I saw the claw it was going to be another CGI animal. I was like, don't be an animal. Don't be an animal, and I'm happy with it.
Don't be a cat.
Yeah, that was like a common thing, was it? Like, it's going to be a giant cat, and I was like, don't do that. But I think the way that they handled it, in which he's a big threat, let's not trivialize this threat. Let's say he's such a threat that we have to push him back. He's dealt with the Rani, that bit's wrapped up, we don't need Omega, let's push him away, he's a threat. And he's still there. He could come back in a different way down the line and actually be the main villain of a story. He's still in hell. You know, there's a lot of arguments, people saying that he killed him. No, he didn't. He used the power of the Vindicator to push him back into hell, seal the door and go, right, you can chill there again, goodbye, fella. He could easily come back and be another threat later. I think how he was used here, I love. Change your mind. Come on.
No, I wasn't particularly
Crispy will.
aggrieved
Crispy
by
will.
by the Omega stuff. I mean, I wasn't the biggest fan of the design.
Which is fair, totally.
I just thought it wasn't like I'm not that bothered about him being like a big CGI thing. I just thought it felt a bit dull. I was like, okay,
That's
it's just
fair.
a big skeleton baby thing, and like the way that they're like, oh, he's been in this underworld and he's become what he's been eulogized as.
Yeah.
I quite liked that idea.
Mm.
I get that it's well explained. I mean, my thing with Omega is what I love about him is the fact that he is just a madman with delusions of grandeur, and I think that's a really interesting when you're doing the pantheon of gods as your prevailing threat throughout an era, bringing in someone who is dangerous but is essentially just sort of what Sutekh originally was, which is just a guy who thinks he's a god. My worries were they're going to make Omega part of the pantheon. They're gonna make him a full god. They didn't do that. So I'm okay.
Which
with
I'm
that.
happy about. Yeah.
I was like, oh, are they going to do when the body came out? I was like, because obviously there's a big part in Classic Who where Omega doesn't have a body. Omega is basically this sentient nothingness.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, is this Omega's body? And I would have quite liked that if like the Rani's plan is just messed up because she thinks she's got Omega, but because we've got the heartbeats, you've just got Omega's body, you haven't got Omega's mind. Sort of like what they did in Satan Pit. I would have quite liked that. I mean, again, I'm not saying, here's Josh rewriting the episode for a while. These are just some theories that I had going in. I was like, oh, are they going to do that? I was also like, oh, are they going to do like, remember when they did like Trevor Slattery in Iron Man 3 with the Mandarin?
Yeah.
And he just comes out and he's a bit of a bumbling idiot.
Yeah, all right. Yeah.
I wouldn't have been against that, to be honest. If Omega just stumbled out and the Rani's like, "Help me, Almighty God," and he's just
some guy.
Insane.
I'm
He's
an
just
actor.
an insane
Okay.
guy.
I'm not real.
Because that's basically what he
Pretend.
is. And he's gone even further insane from what we saw in Classic Who. I would quite like that. But
He walks in and goes, listen, mate, it was Tech 2 the whole time. It was never
Yeah.
me. Okay, I was framed, fella.
what we got, again, it's another case of like, okay, you brought back Omega. We've got too much to deal with here. I feel like we could have gotten away with not doing Omega. And
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
we would have had more time for the other stuff. This is where I'm at. Everything is like, you could have taken this out and focused on something else in the episode. Like, for me, I also think there's a version of this without the Ranis and Omega, where it's a Conrad-focused episode.
Ooh.
And obviously, a
What
lot
do
of
you
that
mean,
a
Troy?
lot of that
Absolutely.
changes.
That's
No,
way better sign.
I just
Troy,
know.
that is way better signposted
Because,
than the Ranis.
because a lot of the most interesting stuff in the episode is Ruby versus Conrad, and I was really invested in those scenes in Conrad's room, but they're really fleeting. I was like, oh, this is great because it's personal. It's personal stakes for a companion that we like and we enjoy, and we've just had the setup for this in Lucky Day. I was like, maybe more focus on Conrad. Again, this is just where I'm at with almost every aspect of the story. Is I like the idea, of the Ranis doing that, but then lose some of the other stuff. You just can't juggle all of this in an hour and 5 minutes. You've bitten off way more than you can chew, and it's like you're having all of your cake, but I'm not eating it. Basically, it's just like we used the analogy last week of like an all-you-can-eat buffet, where it's like, okay, I'm getting a little slice of everything. I'm getting a little bit of every cuisine from around the world, but none of it's the best version of that cuisine you're ever going to eat, is it? It's never going to be the best pizza you've eaten. It's never going to be the best Chinese food. It's never going to be the best Indian, because you've got these chefs who have to be jacks of all trades. Oh, sorry. Crispy's not had breakfast.
I've not had brekkie yet.
That's just sort of going to be my recurring problem. Is I like the idea, but it didn't get enough time. And
which is fair.
And that's the thing. But the Omega thing is far from my biggest issue with with the story. Far from my biggest issue, to be honest. I was like, okay, yeah,
That's fair.
It works. It's okay. I can get over it. It's like Omega being a guy who just wants to eat people. Like,
all right,
sure. Not the biggest fan, but yeah, it's fine.
He'd love
not
a
my
buffet.
biggest issue. Not my biggest issue. I'd say one of my bigger issues. One thing we've not touched on is Belinda. How did we feel about Belinda and her arc? How it wrapped up? How we got to this point? Obviously, the whole thing with Poppy is strange. It's very new and strange. But how did we feel about that?
I have to go into this with my bias of that I prefer Ruby Sunday, and I always did. Like, even from the Robot Revolution, most people quickly went, Belinda's better, I love Belinda. And I was like, look, which is fair, totally, and I totally get it. But I did really like Belinda, but there was something about the duo of Ncuti and Millie, and I think it's Ruby's childlike wonder. I love that energy to a companion, someone who is just swept up by it all and loves it, and I really bought into their relationship. One point I made a few times on Who's There is the argument in Rogue where 15 calls Ruby his best friend, and everyone's like, that's not earned. I'm like, sometimes you do just get attached that fast. You hit it off with someone that fast. I very much do that a lot. So I really bought in their relationship. So I knew going into this that I was losing who I thought was one of my favorite companions I've had in like a decade. I adored her, genuinely. But I really did like the confrontation angle from Belinda. Really did like where they were going with that. And it did, I figured as it went on, it was going to ease up. I figured she wasn't going to be quite as stern right the way through the season. But there definitely is a drop from Lucky Day onwards where she just is not quite the same. And I think the biggest offender of that is the Interstellar Song Contest. Yeah. I like what she does in that episode. I really love that episode. It's one of my favorites of the season. I like what she does, but it doesn't necessarily feel like, as the Twitter stands would say, Belinda core. It doesn't feel like Belinda so much.
Yeah.
And there was an opportunity there for her to really confront 15 about that torturing angle where she brings up slightly, but she's far too flippant about it. Far too kind of nonchalant. You did it. Okay, there's an answer. I'm fine with it. Which, as we know, is because Julia Dawson literally went, I didn't know who I was writing. It was a 30-year-old nurse. Cool. That's all I knew. So it's whatever. I definitely have seen the arguments as changing a character from a stern, independent woman to, someone who's just reduced to a mother. And I can get that argument. For me, I saw it come through as her kind of stern confrontational angle. She's been handed this hand where she has this kid. She doesn't really know how it's happened, but she feels that attachment to her and will defend her. And that's what I said about that scene in the unit tower where she's really proper getting stern. I'm like, this is the Belinda that I liked, where she's confrontational, where she's like, I am going to put up a fight for something if I think it's the right thing to do. And I really liked that. And I think it's a shame that, I made an argument that I felt like a lot of characters had something to do. I think in hindsight, with some of the things we talked about, some people could have had more. Rose Noble for sure. But one of the big replies I got from that is, oh, so you like the main companion being locked in a box for most of the episode? And I'm like, it was 10 minutes at most she was in that zero room in a 68-minute episode. She was not in it for as long as people make it out to be.
Yeah, no, that is a fair argument, to be fair. She isn't. When I rewatched it, I was like, oh, she's not in here for as long as I thought she was.
Nearly as long, no. And I do think there's a thing to be said that, you've taken her off the board. I get that in the season where she's the companion. I do understand that. But I definitely think that was overblown massively. Yeah.
I think that's fair.
As is natural with Doctor Who Twitter at the minute, everything's overblown. Let's be real here. It just is.
Yeah.
But I think she could have been a lot stronger, just season-wise. But I actually feel like there were crumbs in this episode where I was like, this is the Belinda we could have had for a few episodes prior.
I get that. I think I'm very much on the same page in terms of Belinda and the way that I loved her at the start. The first 3 episodes, I was like, oh, this is for me was because I'm not the biggest Ruby Sunday fan.
Get out.
Or I wasn't. I'm going to change that. I wasn't the biggest Ruby Sunday fan from season 1, just because I get that, I am very happy for people who love that dynamic. I just wanted a little bit more bite, a little bit more substance, just to get them to, because they're both incredible. Millie and Ncuti and Varitasethi. All 3 of them are fantastic actors. And I just wanted a bit more of the range that we saw from Ncuti at the start of this series with the confrontation stuff, with having a companion that challenged him a little bit more, even if it wasn't always arguing. It was more it was just a different dynamic, and it just brought more out of Ncuti, in my opinion, than last series did. And I also think that Ruby being separated from Ncuti for most of this, the stuff that she's done in this series, has made Ruby go to another level for me, and I've really, really enjoyed her in Lucky Day.
Absolutely,
she was one of my favourite parts of this episode.
Lucky Day changed a lot of people, on
it
Ruby,
really did.
Sure.
It really won me back over on Ruby, because again, she's challenged more, and she's more challenging. Like she's got more confrontation with other people than she has in episodes of season 1, and I just feel like it adds more dynamics. It adds a bit more range to her performances, and she was great here. I mean, that's sort of where I'm at now. Is I think Belinda was a bit of a breath of fresh air for me. Then we hit Lucky Day. I was like, okay, Ruby, that was great for Ruby, and then Belinda never really continued on what happened before it. I actually I think we spoke about it on your podcast. I actually liked her role in The Story in the Engine. I thought
absolutely,
like, you've managed to work her in and have agency in a story that isn't hers. It's not her story, and that's good, because it's very much Ncuti's story. It's a 15th Doctor story, but she still has agency and doesn't feel like she's just standing around waiting for things to do or just tacked in. She feels integrated nicely. And then the past 3 episodes, again, I just feel like the characterization has got murky, like all of the
she wasn't Belinda
features.
in episode 7 at all,
No.
if we're being frank. She wasn't Belinda at all.
Yeah, she was. In
a
this
Wish version,
Yeah. And episode 6, I was like, this doesn't feel anything like the Belinda that we've spent the past few episodes with. And then this episode, like you said, there were glimmers there of her being a bit like, I liked when she sort of called Ruby out and was like, I'm actually quite insulted that you think that. Like, I'm like, oh wow, nice.
Yeah,
you've only just met and you're getting a bit spicy. This is the Belinda that I like.
What happened there? What was the exchange?
It was when Ruby's fighting about Poppy. Yeah, she's like,
when
it's
Ruby
quite
remembers
offensive
about Poppy.
She's like, it's offensive you would tell me something that that didn't happen, that I supposedly don't remember.
Yeah,
what is that?
Yeah, I was.
That whole scene is great. I could go so hard on that scene of Ruby in the unit tower. I love that so much.
Yeah, no, that was a great part of the episode.
What a scene!
I feel like for Belinda specifically, if I'm honing in on her, the Poppy stuff did just feel a little bit tacked on when we've been setting up this whole other arc of get Belinda home.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel that organic to me. It didn't feel that natural. Like the connection just didn't really get sold. And again, I know a lot of people, I don't want to speculate on behind the scenes things. I do. I know you do. I was watching it like, I cannot see a world where this was not intended to be Ruby. This feels like the fact that it's Poppy, it just doesn't. I was it's a different
It's
chart.
funny, I completely disagree. Watching it, I was like, this just would not have worked with Ruby being the mum. It would not have worked for a second.
It would have worked if it was Ruby. What?
No, I literally
their entire thing is about babies.
Yeah, but I don't see it. I do not see Ruby's character being. I just don't see it working with her. I don't know what it is, but
it may still not have worked with her.
Yeah.
But I was like, I don't think Belinda was. Maybe it's gone through a lot of iterations since, and it's just, I'm assigning things to it that, just from context and things like that the creative team can't control. The context in which the viewership watches it and the knowledge they have of the behind the scenes things and whatever's come out. But I don't know. It felt like, and it's sort of the same with the Regeneration, which we'll get onto. I was like, it's not necessarily that it's all bad. It's just I can sort of see the stitches here where it's been knotted together, and it didn't feel as organic and as natural.
I can get why.
But the Poppy stuff is, especially that bit where Ruby forgets. Ruby remembers while everyone forgets.
It's so
the
well
folding
done.
of the coat,
it's incredible.
that's gorgeous. That is, that's
awesome.
That's probably my favourite sequence of the episode.
It's the best bit,
because I was like, that's just such beautiful.
It's sensational,
simple visual storytelling. where you're telling us without telling us. And that's another thing, is like, one of my notes was, we don't need flashbacks all the time. Stop doing flashbacks to things that happened 5 minutes ago all the time. We can work this out. It's fine. We've got this. And that was where I was like, oh, that's what I want, because that's beautiful. It's like, you're showing me with no words. They're having a completely separate conversation, but our eyes are just fixed on this bit of fabric that's just getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And it was beautiful. I loved it. And I was like, again.
Yeah.
That's great. Give me more
really
of that.
I remember doing a double take in that scene, and I was like, oh, this is good. This is really, really good stuff.
Yeah.
But that also, this was the difference between me watching it at home and you watching it at the cinema. I was like, are we finished with the episode? So that was the one point at which I like hovered my mouse over the screen, and I was like, oh no, we've still got ages left.
Yeah, see, I had no idea.
We've still got so long left.
I had no idea how long we had left.
Yeah.
And no, that really got me, that bit. That sort of leads us into, I feel like we've avoided the elephants as much as we could.
Bone beasts.
Should we just fucking dive into it? I mean, I've got a few other points here, but let's just dive into the main stuff. The 15th Doctor regenerates, and
wait, what?
We get sort of a long lead up to it. And I think, like I said, rewatching it again today, Ncuti's performances, as ever, as they have been, particularly throughout season 2, beautiful. He's just electric.
Yeah.
I could watch him for days. He's just so magnetic, and I just can't take my eyes off him. And he makes such interesting choices, like the bit where he's like hyping himself up running around the TARDIS console. I was like, that's really cool. And like, no other Doctor would do that.
It feels very Ncuti. Yeah,
it's
it feels
very
really
Ncuti. Yeah. I think a lot of it's really beautifully done. And I mean, we get the little Doctor clip show again, which, there's arguments about whether we've done that a few times in the past.
Passage.
Yeah. If you're going to do it, that's fine. I can overlook it.
Are you talking about when it's on the TARDIS screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you heard the theory about that scene?
No.
Like with why that happened? Because when I was watching, I was like, what? If you watch the scene, like, it obviously flicks through every single Doctor, and then when it cuts to the other elephant in the room, when Jodie Whittaker rocks up,
it bounces back to her on the screen.
Yeah, it goes back to her.
Yeah.
And I saw that, like, the TARDIS was kind of like flipping through a catalogue of all the Doctors and being like, oh no, this is the one that 15 needs to talk to right now.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great.
It could have been cool, like, but it is a clip show, and it is like, oh yeah, let's make it into a regeneration story.
That's why I
rite of
liked
passage.
it.
Maybe that's it, and it's a show don't tell. Maybe that is what the TARDIS was doing, and they're not signposting like the TARDIS has chosen it, and that's better that way.
I like that, and I like the. Firstly, I like the TARDIS feeling like a bit of a character again and feeling alive again, and having a bit of agency in the story. That's always my favourite thing, is when the TARDIS gets stuck in a bit and it's like, oh, the TARDIS is a character in the story. Yeah, Jodie pops up.
Whoa.
I was beaming for this entire scene. It was, again, other than the folding of the coat, actually probably more than the folding of the coat, to be honest, it was my favourite part of the episode. I loved it.
It's awesome.
I thought it was really, really beautiful. A lovely little passing of the torch. Because it's nice to do it with Jodie, because we obviously had that little skip over with David, and obviously everyone was like, Jodie was the first, like, the one full-time Doctor before Ncuti, so it was nice to have her do the handover and sort of see them through. And I just thought it was all really nicely done, like the stuff, touching on the relationship with Yaz, and the fact that how much 15 has come on from when he was 13 in terms of being able to say, I love you.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful.
All gorgeous stuff. If you want the reaction from the cinema there, I leapt out of my seat. I think everyone else did, because that was the one thing from the leaks that I hadn't even heard a rumour of. I hadn't even heard a whisper of that.
Apparently that did leak as well, which is ridiculous.
Insane.
Yeah.
I have things I want to say later about the leaks and stuff like that. I'm just like, it just
crikey
annoys me so
Moses.
much. I
But
have
Troy,
so much to say about
what
that.
was your reaction? I don't know if we really talked about your reaction in the cinema for Jodie, because like you're an absolute Jodie stan.
I
mean,
was
so am I,
so happy about it, but I was already so heartbroken over Ncuti because I just heard, "Oh man, I like this face," and everything came crashing down because I was like, because this, like, again, has become one of my favorite doctors. Like, he's in the top 3 for sure. He's fighting Capaldi for me. Like, I don't.
Oh no.
Sorry, just is. But like, so I was so upset over that, and was continually upset for about 45 minutes throughout, of just like, Ncuti's going. I'm not. This is too soon. Ncuti's going. And Jodie was like, "This is amazing." I was like, "But Ncuti's about to go. She's saying goodbye to him like we are." And so, like, the first time I couldn't even fully appreciate it. Rewatching it, I'm like, it's so good. It's such a fantastic scene, and I love that she gets to come back.
Yeah,
you know. Of course, we've had a few comments of people
in a few minutes. It's just you get all of the 13th Doctor.
And can I just say, I feel like Russell wrote her just like Chibnall. I feel like she was characterized perfectly. You've already got those idiots in comments being like, "Oh, Russell's written her better than 3 years of Chibnall. If only she'd been written like."
Stupid.
Like,
that's a really stupid
you
comment
could have
to
seen
make.
that from 73 yards away. Like, as soon as she came back, that those comments were going to come. Everyone knew that. But I think he wrote her beautifully, and it felt very akin to the Chibnall era. And even the Thasmin nods, the crumbs in 2025. Never thought we'd get anything like that. But I love that little nod of, you're never going to say I love you to Yaz, but she knows. It's like a healing moment, a closure moment. It's beautiful. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah. It was nice. It was just, I mean, like, it is like massive fan service. But if you're going to do it, I think it was a really good way to do it.
Agreed.
And it kind of, as we kind of mentioned on our podcast, Troy, 15 saying like I love you to 13 was not only like a really beautiful thing showing how the Doctor has changed their character, but it was also kind of a nice way to be like, oh no, the Jodie era, as much hate or whatever as it got, you are loved. Like, you're still a loved incarnation of the Doctor. I thought it was a really sweet thing, nod. And for goodness sake, it's not a bad thing to have some positivity in Doctor Who.
And they're the two groundbreaking incarnations, aren't they? That's the thing. It's like, it's the first numbered black incarnation of the Doctor, the first numbered queer incarnation of the Doctor, the first numbered female incarnation of the Doctor, and we've had Joe Martin a few episodes ago as well. It's like we're celebrating the 3 groundbreaking incarnations there.
Yeah.
And I loved that.
Well put.
And I thought it was really, really beautiful.
It was just a really well done scene, I thought.
And I love that we got a David Tennant meta joke. I like that even they went, all right, we get it. Like, there's a lot of David.
Well, do they get it?
Whether you love it or not.
We'll get to that.
I meant specifically to David there. In fairness, I did mean specifically to David.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously we get that great scene. I love the visuals. I think a lot of people are sort of digging out the way, like, especially. I can see some arguments about the regeneration at the end being a bit big and a bit massive.
Mate.
Like, I thought it looked decent. I mean,
it looked good. I'm so past the CGI nitpicking.
I've preferred previous ones, but I thought it looked good. But
Valid.
I really loved the bit where he's, again, I don't really know what he's exactly doing, but where he's sort of sacrificing himself and he's just pouring the energy into the console.
Yeah,
and he's got like the fucking Pikachu sparks coming out of his hands, and he's
muscles that could chop logs with his bare hands. There's that one shot that
he really is.
His hands up.
I mean,
and it's like, action man, my God, like the muscles on this dude is insane.
Can we just take a moment for the most beautiful Doctor who's ever existed? I am a straight man. Dear God.
Yeah,
he is.
Same. Gorgeous.
Everyone that I mentioned, like people say all the time, it's like Jess is like, I don't fancy him, but he's beautiful. He's just
he's just a gorgeous man.
Gods.
Yeah.
Doesn't 13 say that?
It's just 13.
Your
she's
face
like,
is
wow,
absolutely gorgeous.
And yeah, it was I thought the self-sacrifice element was nice. It feels in character, like I said. Self-sacrificing himself for a baby is like, that's 15's whole deal. I liked that. I liked the reasoning for it. My issues with the regeneration come from I'm sad to lose him because
it's too soon.
It's too soon.
Far too soon.
I've said, like I said, it's been such a step up for Ncuti this season for me. from last series. I liked him last series. He was one of my favourite things last series, but this series I was like, oh, wow, we've got a fucking Doctor on our hands.
Yeah.
But it's like he was just finding his groove. But it's also an element, because he was just finding his groove, it's like, I feel like I've not fully gotten to know him yet, and he's gone. So the regeneration doesn't hit as hard as it would if I'd had another series. But also, it's not like the Ninth Doctor, where it's a short tenure, but I feel like it's all wrapped up and it's beautifully packaged like a bow. And when he goes at the end of Parting of the Ways, it's like, okay, he's done.
Yeah.
And he's ready to go. It feels like he's got so much more to give. And it's like, you can almost, I think you can almost feel that from Ncuti in his performance of like, got so much more to do here. And it's like, I'm just gutted. I'm gutted he's gone, because it's more, I more feel angry. Like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like, I'm not sad he's gone. I'm annoyed because I just want more. And I'm like, and I don't particularly want whatever's coming next. Well, I don't know.
We'll get to that.
I will get to that.
It's funny. I laughed at you when you went. It didn't hit me as much as any other, because this has hit me more. Like, as much
hit
as
you, hasn't it?
David Tennant, End of Time, or maybe if you compare how much was crying as a child, then it might balance out, or maybe worse for Ncuti. Just how attached I was to his Doctor, how much I relate to him, which is like, you don't tend to relate to the Doctor, I don't think, very much. But his Doctor's the first one where, like, I see a lot of myself in his personality and his emotion and all that. So I was very attached to that, and it is so soon. Like.
Way too soon.
Should we talk about the should he have got, was he really going to go thing? Because I do have thoughts. Are we going on that? Are we going into that doorway?
I mean, I personally,
I've been stewing a lot on this for the last 48 hours, and I have a lot of thoughts.
I don't want to speculate. I don't want to assume things when we don't know the full truth.
Exactly. Yeah. We know nothing.
I have a theory, and much like anything else on Twitter, it's not a one way or the other. It's not an extreme viewpoint, and I do think sometimes, with all the love in the world, I think Doctor Who fans can be far too entitled sometimes. I think leaks get out, and they hear rumblings inside that really should never get out. Sometimes I think the fact they get out just causes nothing but harm, and then people will form their opinions before stuff even happens half the time. But we have to remember, from the second he was cast, and we knew that they were filming 2 seasons back to back, one of the most common theories was he might do 2 seasons and go. We have to remember that was a common theory. I didn't buy into that too much, because I know we agreed, Crispy, there were 2 options. Either he's 2 seasons and go, or they're filming 2 seasons to give him time to do other stuff and then come back to do season 3 and then more. For me, after thinking about it a lot, it's quite clear to me he was not dead set from the start on going after 2 seasons. I think he was definitely open to doing more. And my personal thing is, I'm in my heart of hearts, I think for all the flack Russell gets, which I think a lot of it, honestly, I still think is undeserved. I think the dude's doing a really pretty good job of this era. I've loved it myself. But you cannot tell me there were not planning meetings where they sat and went, we need options for whether he stays or whether he goes. Because there's a big argument right now. There was that scene of the party between 15, Belinda, and Ruby. There's a bit of a rumor. I don't know how much you want to get into it, but that was meant to be the original ending. Supposedly, Susan would be in the corner watching them. That'd be a cliffhanger of season 3. That was meant to be the original ending. And I don't disagree for a second. That probably was. But in my head, I feel like, because for me, watching, as I said, it felt like it flowed nicely. The pacing felt good. It felt like it had written it. I honestly think Russell possibly wrote 2 versions of this story. One where Ncuti stayed and one where Ncuti goed. What the hell?
Goed.
And it's my personal belief that they hoped he was going to stay on, and Ncuti was like, if we can make it work, I will do a season 3. I think he's probably happy to go after 2. I'm sad he's not fought a Dalek, obviously. Because the way he's talking, at least, it feels like he's like, I am okay to step off here. I don't mind it that much. I think he would have done more. And they filmed it on the hope that he would do more. But once it got to the point where they realised, okay, maybe it's time for you to step off, they shot the other ending. I honestly firmly believe the options are open to start. Because people are so sure it's one or the other. That it was there was a crisis inside. They had to panic. They had to scramble. They had to write something. And that's why this episode sucks. I think it is so much more simple and bland than that. That it's just, they had these plans. And maybe, because this was maybe the ending Russell wrote second. I don't disagree with that for a second. But maybe because we know so much. And as I say, I think we know more than we should about what goes on the inside. For a lot of people, it instantly takes how you see it. Instantly, you can see the cracks because they're there to begin with. And I think that ruins it. I'm very passionate about this.
No,
Sorry.
no,
I've
it's
been
fine.
That's a
stewing
good
on
point.
this for days.
I
I
think
I went on a
see it.
muting spree on Twitter.
Yeah.
I've muted probably about 50 people. And it's so much nicer my timeline now without all of the pessimistic. And anyone who ever says Doctor Who should have a break, I'm sorry, but can we not just enjoy the show? If you don't like the episodes, that's fine. But wishing for the show to end, what are we doing? What are we doing? Sorry, the power of the gods just came through me there, the pantheon. I'm going to do the giggle in a minute. I feel like I've woken up, but I've been stewing on that and I haven't said it anywhere. And I really want to get it out.
No, it's a fair point. Absolutely. I think I sit somewhere in the middle where I don't think it's anywhere near as dramatic as people are making it out to be. I am. If you had a gun to my head and you said what do you think happened, I do think it's probably a case of they thought a series 3 was a bit more of a shoo-in than it was with Disney.
Yeah.
They were planning, like you said, to go in for series 3. I think Ncuti was maybe planning to go for series 3 and waited as long as he possibly could before going,
Graham Norton?
I can't hang on anymore, guys. And that's, I've said all series, if Ncuti goes, absolutely fair play. You are at the precipice of doing something massive in your career. We've never had a Doctor who is on a trajectory like this.
Yeah.
And
very true.
That's the perils of the Disney deal. That were basically a lot of the problems that have come about, or a lot of the things that have happened, are just a consequence of you've made a deal with the devil. There's benefits to it, but there are some issues. Yeah, you've got the big money to go and get someone like Ncuti and to go and lock him down. But if you can't keep that up on a regular basis, you're going to lose him. And that's fine. I have no ill will towards Ncuti for leaving the show when he did, because he has to think about his own career, especially. He cannot be sat around for however long it's going to take for Disney to commission a new series. And we have no idea if the BBC could afford to keep Ncuti on. We don't know that. So we don't even know if they can afford to make Doctor Who yet. So we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll see.
Well, let's not even open that door.
Soon.
Let's not open that door.
But yeah, I think it's a high likelihood that it was just Ncuti probably sat down and had a conversation and was like, look, guys, I can't wait any longer. Like, I'd love to stay. I think I've got to step off because it's going to...
Absolutely.
The risk is too high. That's where I stand on it.
He was ready to film season 3 at Christmas. You know, that the infamous clip from Graham Norton that was cut. He's like, we're going to start in January.
He was ready to go. So I think that's where we're at. And I think one thing that adds to that theory is the casting decision for the subsequent Doctor.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Come on.
Yeah.
10 out of 10 episode for me, but I have intentionally avoided talking about this because I'm just not letting that impact my score because I am not impressed.
No.
I'm not impressed.
I've done a little experiment.
Okay.
I hope you'll indulge me.
Do it, sir.
I was like, okay, as a fan, I'm going to get my thoughts and feelings out here. I spoke about it last week before I thought I knew it was real. Everything that I said still stands. I think it is not what I think Doctor Who should be doing. It's not anything to do with Billie's acting ability. She's a fantastic actress. If you strip away the context of Billie Piper and Doctor Who, she would be near the top of my list. She's fantastic. But that context exists. And my issues aren't with her as an actress. It's definitely nothing to do with the fact that it's a female Doctor. I'd love a female Doctor again.
Any day of the week.
Because I feel like this is the conclusions people are jumping to when people are criticising it and are going, oh, well, that's what you think. No, it's not. That's not my issue. And I know that, again, another thing is it's not a law issue either. I know there's a precedent for it. I know that we've done the whole this face has come back thing before. That's part of the problem. We've done this before. We did it a couple of years ago. We've done it in a small way with Capaldi. Then we did it a couple of years ago and it didn't really lead to anything in terms of an answer for that with the 14th Doctor. It did a bit, but did it fully justify itself? Who knows? That's up for debate. But we're then doing this again straight after. It's been a year and a half and we're going to, and I'm going to call it what I think it is, a gimmick. It feels like a gimmick. I think it's a
100%.
gimmick.
I've got so much to say, but Crispy, I monopolise the regeneration and Ncuti leaving. Like, you go, sir, you go. I'm ready to fire on all cylinders, but I'm biting my tongue.
Oh, you want me to? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So this is very, very interesting because one, let's start with the positives. Let's start with some positives here. The first thing I mentioned, the one thing I enjoyed was the headline isn't, "Oh, it's a female doctor." That's not the headline. Jodie has normalized there being female doctors in Doctor Who, so I'm very thankful for that, and I'm sure down the line there will be more female doctors. So I'm very, very happy about that.
Yeah,
the second thing,
agreed.
the general public doesn't know this, but us Doctor Who fans are insane and saw in the credits that she's not credited as the Doctor. Tinfoil hat on, that they've basically done that as a whatever happens, they can write it out. If Billy is not the Doctor, like it's just like a weird, I don't know, body swap situation, or it's the TARDIS or whatever. They can do whatever they want with that and kind of retcon this being a Doctor if they want to. They've kind of left the door slightly open for that. And three, it's absolutely stunt casting, and it's annoying that Ncuti is kind of bookended with stunt casting and started with stunt casting. I don't like the idea of that, but the craziest thing happened yesterday. The absolute craziest thing happened. In my workplace, like, people know that I love Doctor Who. It's pretty common knowledge. But I never really talk about the episodes. Like, no one in the office watches it. No one in the office watches it. On 4 separate occasions, people came up to me saying, "So Billie Piper, huh? So congratulations, you got what you wanted. You got your headline. You got the general public talking
Russell
about it."
Russell got to generate content, as everyone loves to call
He got
him
to generate
for.
some content. My review for this episode has 34,000 views at the moment.
Woo!
Which is the most. It's the most viewed video, review of mine ever. So if that was the intention here, to create buzz, I feel like it was like, oh hey, let's do some stunt casting to kind of prove to Disney and the BBC executives or whoever, being like, oh, the show isn't dead. Look at all this engagement. Look at it. We're still thriving. But not all engagement is good engagement.
Everything you've just said is the most depressing thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
Yeah. Absolutely. The general public are like, whoa, okay. I told my girlfriend, and the one thing she said was, "Are the creative team running out of ideas?" And I was like, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well,
maybe.
this was what I was going to say. So my experiment that I did, I was like, right, I'm going to get a little bit of a catchment here of a reaction. I was like, I told I straight out the cinema, I saw my mom, and I told my mom. She grimaced. And then I told my dad, and he was like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah." And then I was like, right, who's someone who I could ask who is like the perfect level to gauge a response from this?
An impartial
So
observer.
I am a good friend of Owen Likes Comics, who is a great comic book YouTuber. We've been very good friends for many, many, many years. Owen is very much in the nerd culture, in the fandom of many, many things. Doctor Who is not one of them. So I would classify, in terms of someone who's like, obviously Owen loves comics, watches comic book movies, watches other sci-fi properties, very much in the same age bracket as me, which is definitely the target audience that Doctor Who is going for right now. If you are going to create someone who is like in Bad Wolf Studios, that's the kind of person they're gunning for. They're going to get the people who are maybe winding down on the MCU, maybe a little bit, maybe winding down on other stuff, and are looking for the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
I
feel like Owen. I know where this is going.
They could get Owen. I said to Owen, what were your thoughts when you saw about Billie Piper? Because I knew that I knew they'd seen it. I knew they'd seen it. Owen said, from the outside, it looks like nostalgia for nostalgia's sake. It makes it look like the strategy is just remember what happened 20 years ago, and compared it to just seeming exactly like Robert Downey Jr. coming back as Doctor Doom.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
Palpatine
wow.
returning. Sorry, Troy. And I was like, well, that's exactly how I feel. And I was like, I don't want to be negative because I'm always have such an open mind when it comes to Doctor Who, to try anything and to go anywhere. But Doctor Who is the show that taught me about grief. Doctor Who's the show that taught me about loss and moving on and growing and changing and moving on. That's what Doctor Who taught me. So when I see that show refusing to do that and refusing to move on, it makes me sad. I just felt sad. But, half the cinema, I think, I had my head in my hands while a girl was cheering next to me. And I'm so happy for the people who are happy about this.
Yeah, a lot of cheers in my screening for context.
I wish I could be there with you. I'm just not. It's just my natural reaction was just, oh God, I just want. I saw a tweet which sums up all my feelings. Do you remember when Doctor Who just used to go on adventures in the TARDIS? That's all I want. And I just, it's like, and to sum up my feelings about the series, the first 5 episodes, the first 4 were great, and I had a lot of enjoyment from them. The story in the engine, for me, I think I said it on your podcast, or I said something to this effect. This is everything I want Doctor Who to do. It's diverse storytelling. It's telling something new. It's embracing different cultures. It's embracing change. It's doing things it's not done before. And it's also paying homage to what's come before it in a lovely way, in a subtle way, without forcing it as nostalgia bait down our throats. And I was like, that is what I'd love to be the blueprint of Doctor Who. After the story in the engine, the past 3 episodes have been a perfect 3-episode run summation of everything I don't want from Doctor Who. Everything I don't want from Doctor Who. And that's a personal thing. Everyone is different. I'm not saying Doctor Who is dead. I'm not saying cancel the show. I'm not being reactionary like that. I just have to speak from my own personal feelings about it, in that I just don't think this if this is what the era is, I don't know if it's for me. And I'm going to carry on watching.
Absolutely fair.
I'm going to carry on watching. Obviously, I'm always going to watch Doctor Who. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, so many people going, I'm not going to watch it. Yes, you are.
I'll wait.
Yeah,
I'll watch it,
insane.
And I'll just wait for the next one. The next
can't
one,
kid a kidder.
someone else will come along. Someone will do something with it. Someone will do something new and fresh, and maybe I'll enjoy that a little bit more. This is what people felt last era, and I never did. I was like, oh, I'm sort of on board with this. There's things I like, there's things I don't.
In some ways, I'm happy Russell's still showrunner, or at least hopefully will be, because it just delays the amount of time until someone else takes over, and then they get all the vitriol. Because I don't care what anyone says, whoever takes over, they're just going to get stuff thrown at them for
It's
whatever
a shit
reason.
job.
It is the biggest
Horrible
example, the biggest and the fattest and the dirtiest example of a poison chalice I have ever seen in my life. And I mean that with every bone in my body. I have never seen a position in media be so hated. I mean, Kathleen Kennedy gets so much for her roles in Star Wars, which, again, I think is almost entirely unwarranted. I mean, completely. I haven't even heard a lot of it, but I've heard of some stuff where I go, this is so unneeded. But I genuinely think Doctor Who showrunner is the worst example of the dredges of fandom I've ever seen in my life.
Task. I think there's often a thing that goes around in the UK, which is like the 2 worst jobs in order are the manager of the England football team and the Prime Minister of Great Britain. I would put the showrunner of Doctor Who up there in terms of the response that you get and the things you have to deal with. I
feel like the things I've heard said about Russell I never even heard said about Rishi Sunak. I feel like it's crazy.
But I also can't sit here and go, I'm enjoying the direction it's going. I am not excited for the future of Doctor Who at the moment, and that makes me, I'm gutted. I am so gutted about that, and I really wish I could get excited, and maybe I will. There is a world where the Billie Piper thing, maybe it's breezed over and we move on. I'd enjoy that. I mean, I'd argue, if anything, if you've done it, you've done it now. Just commit. You got to
absolutely
commit to the bit.
Go full seasons.
Yeah,
make her the best.
Yeah,
make it work.
If you're going to do it. Justify it.
For legal reasons, my comments there about Rishi Sunak were not aiming hate at him. I want to put that out there before someone picks up on that. For legal reasons, I'm just saying I'm surprised I've seen worse than what the Prime Minister has had.
That's fine.
That out there. My thing with the Billie Eilish of it, or Billie Eilish of it all. What is my brain
Billie
doing
Eilish
tonight?
is the doctor.
Billie Eilish
no,
is the
she's not the
doctor.
doctor. She's the bad guy.
Yeah,
duh.
She's the Time Lord.
For me,
Duh.
the thing with the Billie Piper of it all, I'm kind of a combination of both of you. Crispy, I am so like Ncuti Gatwa. The tagline of Ncuti Gatwa's announcement was, "The future is here." This is the future of Doctor Who. The future is Ncuti Gatwa. And it was a great announcement, which to some people was immediately overshadowed a few weeks later when it was David Tennant and Catherine Tate back. Now, I have that bias. I know I do. I was so excited by that. Still excited for Ncuti. Also excited for that. But even then, I got the complaints of, this is overriding that. But I thought, it's for the 60th. I always said, and I think Crispy might remember this, I really did not think it'd be an idea for a new Doctor to come straight in and tackle the 60th. I never thought that'd be a good idea. I think it's too much pressure. I think it's better for a Doctor who's already there to stay, which is why I hope Jodie would do it. But David coming back, as a big 60th lover, I thought what they did was great. I really do. But even then, I mean, I remember there's some friends of mine who were all watching. There was that infamous video of a bunch of Thassi fans who were watching The Power of the Doctor, and some of them got quite upset at David showing up at the end. I get that. I was happy. I was sad about Jodie leaving. Happy David came back. I was like, it's whatever. But that's because of that nostalgia, and it was very specific to the 60th anniversary. And even then for that, you can argue that for what percentage you want to argue on, that was a stunt casting for at least some of it. The percentage of which you can argue, like, I definitely think it wasn't a full stunt casting, but there was an element of it there. To me, literally, not even 2 years after David Tennant left, again, we've now gone back to another person from 20 years ago, where here, it's not for an anniversary special. It's not because we've had 10 years of ratings declining and Doctor Who is dead or whatever it might be. It is just, okay, this Doctor's left, now let's go back to the glory days again. And as you've said, Crispy, it really burns me that two people, but much as I adore David Tennant, is my favourite Doctor, he's eaten my face, all that. From an objective perspective, it burns me so hard that two people from Doctor Who's glory days now bookend someone who was heralded as the future of the show. It really hurts. Now, I will say, one of my biggest angers of it right now is that it's so up in the air. Maybe she's a Doctor, maybe she's not, and maybe, as you've said, they've left it open so that they can go whatever way they want. It's not impossible. I don't disagree. Once they actually explain it, maybe I'll settle back into it. I saw a real copium theory that was like, maybe like they're going to do a Bad Wolf thing for a bit and then Ncuti will be free to come back. I mean, that would be amazing. I don't think that's ever going to happen. That's never going to happen. But a man can dream. But part of me is even just like, we haven't had a proper handing the baton over Regeneration for 8 years now, guys.
Yeah.
Like, Jodie went back into David, I love, but not a typical Regeneration. David bi-generation to Ncuti, I liked the bi-generation, still not a typical one. Ncuti finally gets a typical Regeneration like we should have had, and he's into Billie Piper, who isn't even confirmed to be the Doctor.
Yeah.
It's just like, what
We've not
are
had
we
a
doing?
normal Regeneration for so long, and I just...
Yeah,
this is what I mean. I just sort of want it to go back to...
I can get the necessary evil of a stunt casting, like for mentioning the Robert Downey Jr. Doctor Doom. When we see that, maybe that will be fine. I'm personally intrigued by the idea. I don't hate it. I get the hate, but I'm like, this could be something. Like, I kind of trust like the Russos and the people writing that to deliver something good, because they did that with Infinity War and Endgame. That's whatever. Sometimes I'm like, I can get it. Marvel was really not doing so hot. They needed something to bring people back, whatever. Doctor Who does not need a stunt casting. Like, Disney, it was in the top 10, top 5.
But is that the conversation happening behind the scenes that they were like, this is necessary?
Exactly. Like, did Disney say, was it top 10 or top 5 shows of the season for season 1 of Doctor Who? Of that particular season, Doctor Who was a big performer for Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Like, they confirmed that. So it wasn't underperforming.
Wait, what are you talking about?
Like, season 1 of Doctor Who. Like, I swear Disney released something, and I think it was only a few months ago, I think we talked about it, where they said it was in like the top 5 of like their streaming shows for the particular window that it was releasing.
The argument is that some people have put forward is essentially, who is going to sign on to be the 16th Doctor when there's no commission secured?
Yeah, But
you
at that
can't-
point, it should have
you
just done it
can't
open-ended.
sign anyone else.
Like,
Yeah, I agree that
if
you
you
know,
show someone else, to me, that is like a confirmation of more is coming.
I
If
think-
more is
yeah,
not coming
that's
and
the
you've done
thing.
that, that is a mislead.
people
I don't
argue,
love it.
oh well, that just leaves it uncertain. But I feel like uncertainty is better than what, in my opinion, is just bad optics for the whole series.
I love Billie Piper. I think whatever they're going to do with her, I think she'll do a fantastic job. Nothing against her. I think she is fantastic. And I do think, and I mean, as the optimist amongst us who gave Reality War a 10 out of 10, I see a timeline where whatever they explain for her, whatever they do with her, I end up loving. I don't discount that for a second. But right now, all I can see is the stunt casting nature of it, like, to me, it screams that they felt they needed to do this. And it just, for someone who has loved so dearly this Doctor Who they heralded as the future to be bookended by such nostalgia, I'm struggling to get behind it.
I know.
Yeah, and it's interesting because my mum, when it happened, she was like, "Oh, this could be interesting. They're really doing this. Okay, I'm intrigued." She is really worn off the idea. We watched it again today. She's just like, "I'm with you. I don't get this. I don't get it." And I think once that shock value wears off, how many people are actually that excited about it? I don't know. I hope that a lot of people are. I hope a lot of people
are. People going to be this excited about it in potentially 2 years' time when we get
outside
the
the
next series?
vacuum of Twitter? I think I said to you before we started recording, I'm a huge fan of Blind Wave. I love those guys. It's my favorite YouTube content I watch, and they have adored season 2. And I honestly, there's a pretty decent chance they'll watch the Reality War and really like it. I honestly do. They're like, Real Rejects quite liked it. Like, there is, I think once you step outside that vacuum, there's probably a lot of different opinions, and I really am intrigued to see how that goes over time. I think there will probably be more people who are into it than we think, and
everyone at my work loved it. They were like, "Oh, cool!
Exactly.
Yeah, I used to watch with David Tennant, but that's exactly what they wanted.
Yeah,
it's exactly what
they
wanted."
All I hope is that it justifies its own existence, and I think for some people, the 60th and the 14th Doctor have not done that. They far from did that. For me, it more than did it. I loved what they did, but I know that my opinion is not the only one. And I think this is going to be an even harder sell than that. I really do.
Way harder sell.
Yeah.
Well, that was the Reality War.
Yeah. Holy moly.
We've got a little bit of timey-wimey shenanigans here for my listeners at home. And Crispy has had to shoot off, so me and Troy are doing this a little bit after the fact. So we are going a little bit out of order here, Star Wars style. And we're going to go and have a little look at bloody Twitter.
For God's sake! Bloody Twitter!
At 20 past midnight.
Yeah, it's 20 past 12. We're very tired. This recording has spanned over multiple days now.
It's been fun.
And we're tired. Troy's distraught, naturally.
I'm okay. My lovely mother is asleep next door, so I'm just quiet. That's all.
Just quiet. We'll just.
It's a nice lullaby section.
Look, we're gonna bring back the nice jazz, calm jazz club vibes.
Oh,
and we need them because bloody Twitter has never been so.
Yeah, I'm starting to wonder why I agreed to stick around for this.
I know, Troy. I know. Look, I'm gonna fire through some of these.
Okay.
I know that some of these are going to be wildly negative.
Hold my hand,
because
Josh.
I have
Hold
had
my
a little read through, and I know Troy, you're
Hold
a
my
big fan
hand.
of the episode, but you're here as its defender. So
Yeah. I will fight the Reality War.
we're going to fire through these. Now, one thing that I do want to point out, which I was very, very excited about, somebody was so excited to get their thoughts in about the Reality War. Maybe not excited, maybe that's the wrong word. Someone was very passionate and wanted to get their thoughts in. They sent it before I did the post, and they sent in an email. This is the first time I've ever had an actual email
Oh my god.
into the podcast. I mean, maybe
no.
I've had one before, but I don't remember. But this is just out of the.
Did David Tennant ever say bloody Gmail?
bloody
I don't think-
Gmail? Yeah.
I don't think he said that.
Well, thank you, Harry Brian Doer, for emailing in. I mean, the subject of the email was Christ. So,
Oh no. Oh no.
no, I mean, this is actually fairly positive. He said, I genuinely really enjoyed the episode for the first 60 minutes. Loved the callbacks from the other stories and the threads being pulled together. Some great stuff, including Ncuti magicking his outfit after dropping the blazer. Yes. I'm the Doctor, just accept it. And the theme playing as he's whizzing through the air. Regarding the ending, this is the best analogy I can come up with. After finally doing a good and well thought out finale, Russell T Davies completes a fantastic gymnastics routine and sticks the landing against the odds. He turns to the crowd and shouts, "Do you want some more?" Goes for a handstand and dies.
So Final Destination, basically.
Final Destination style is
Oh my
literally
God,
what
is
they've
that-
written. Incredible.
Oh, this is beautiful. This is
Incredible.
beautiful.
In the words of a great and wise man, sack Russell T Davies. I mean,
Oh no. No, not this again.
I mean, they're
I have
very
muted
positive
so many
about the
people
episode.
sharing that video on Twitter. I swear down, man.
I know. Look, you live by the sword, you die by the sword, you know?
Listen, can I recommend muting sprees to your lovely lot? Because, listen, they heal the soul.
I
They heal
think
the soul.
my lovely lot might be the people you've muted.
Well, no, you know what? That's fine. That's fine. Everyone's entitled to their opinion.
Look.
I'd never refute that, but it doesn't mean I have to see them.
Oh, exactly. But I'm going to force them down your throat now. Jude.
That just
good
sounds
friend of the
wrong,
show.
fella. That
I
just does
know,
not
sorry.
sound okay.
Jude, a friend of the show, at Pig and Tea Break, said, "My main thoughts about Omega and the Marani were defeated way too easily, and the politics of the entire episode were really bad, especially relating to Belinda." And he said in another tweet, Belinda's character arc is basically independent working woman who is seen to reject the heteronormative and conservative idea of the nuclear family and gender roles, finishes the series lumbered with a baby from a parallel universe devised by a bigot. Awful writing. I mean, I agree a little bit with the politics of that aspect of it. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I think we went into sort of Omega and the Rani, and you know, I don't think their defeats were the issue for me. It was just I just wanted more of it. I just wanted more time to breathe. If you were going to do it, go full gung ho on one thing, not all of them at once. You know, Dr. Master, I believe a dear friend of your show, dear friend of Nostalgia, and now a dear friend of Who Knew. Mother has returned home. Naturally, with a big picture of Jodie Whittaker, which, you know, we echo the sentiments.
Well, she said that Jodie got her back into Doctor Who, which I thought was a lovely thing. That's a nice moment.
That's
for her.
absolutely beautiful, and it's lovely for all those 13th Doctor fans to get that moment. And Ella said, overall, I think the character work in the story has been extremely weak. I've not been able to get attached to these characters enough to care that they're gone. However, Ncuti killed it in his last scene, and also the reasoning as to why his doctor died felt very in character, saving one person's life at the sake of his own, which I agree. I definitely agree.
I think I replied to that tweet, didn't I?
Yeah, I think you did, yeah.
I think you did.
Elle also said, Bad Wolf really need to sort their shit out as everything got leaked. It's seriously bad, and this may be the messiest behind the scenes for a while. I'd love to know what went on. But yeah, the leaks and everything, it's bad.
That's what I said. It just invites Who fans to then pass opinions on things they should never know, and it feeds this entitled nature. Not everyone is, but there's certainly a subsect of fans that know everything on the inside that I don't think we should ever know. It's not a benefit for us to know.
Yeah. That
then forms your opinions, and you know, you think about things like where things leak. Think about The Last of Us 2. Think how many opinions were formed before that game release because of leaks, and then you play it, and well, hopefully most people are like, actually, okay, not as bad as it had sounded. You know. Once you hear these things ahead of time, out of context in a vacuum, it's easy for it to form your
Generation. I remember reading about the Bar Generation, and obviously it wasn't like a public thing, but I was like, I don't know if I'm the biggest fan of that idea. But then in execution, the first one,
absolutely,
it landed better than I thought it was going to. And it's like, you can't, because also sometimes the leaks are like half right, but they're like. They're sort of right, and they get a little thing right, but then it's like,
it sounds like this one was all right.
It's completely different. So yeah.
Dallum
reviews a typical RTD finale in more ways than one, but I found the untimely end to 15 to be emotionally poignant and devastating. Putting his life down for one child is beautiful. Loved Jodie, a true surprise and a delight. Hated the last few seconds. Hard to picture where it goes now, which I think again echoes your thoughts. Matteo at Ember's a Nerd said, I liked it a lot when I first watched it, but even before I went online after sitting with it a bit, I really disliked the ending. Not even just Billy, but also the character assassination of Belinda and how Ruby didn't even get a proper goodbye. That's something we didn't touch on. That Ruby does get sort of glanced over a little bit at the end, which is a bit of a shame. I mean, because she really shines in the episode, doesn't she?
Yeah, someone headcanoned or did a thing on YouTube trying to suggest that he goes back to the club in Church and Ruby Road, and that scene with her, it's much worse than that is like his goodbye, like a very end of time style thing or something. Which I think it works not as well when you have him like saving her from the snowman, but like for the isolation of that scene, I love that idea. If that was separate to it or something, you could have written that. That would have been lovely. That would have been so lovely.
That's one for the Target novels. I'm sure a Target novel can squeeze
that's one thing
that
I didn't
in.
even talk about was how full circle the episode was. All the ties back to Church and Ruby Road, to Space Babies, to Joy to the World. All the different things that connected together. Robot Revolution. Like, even if this ending wasn't the one they originally wanted, like I said, it plays into that thing that Russell had another ending ready, because it feels like it was wrote quite nicely into his era, and it lends credence to, if you didn't know anything behind the scenes, if you didn't know what was going on even marginally, you might think for a bit, maybe they did plan this all along, even if it feels soon. Maybe this was the plan, I think that plays, I think that's something that's been, I think, overlooked a little bit personally.
Yeah, this one is a rough one. I'm going to pre-warn you.
Hold my hand.
Dear friend of the show, Cal.
Okay.
Cal _King _Insta. I have to read this out because I was just. It's a fantastic message.
I'm ready.
But it's just,
Let me be brave.
It's very brutal. An utter failure of astronomical proportions. This episode is just 68 minutes of noise. Belinda is unrecognisable as a character and treated misogynistically. 2 seasons of build-up of Mrs. Flood just for there to be no explanation for her fourth wall breaks, and she does fuck all and disappears. Archie Punjabi, who spoke about how she was proud to be the first Asian actress to play the Rani and how the original writers would be happy, is eaten by Omega because he does that now for some stupid reason, and the white woman Rani survives. The ending is so clearly stuck on from Ncuti deciding to leave, and yet they try and claim it was always the plan, and then that ending. Never before has a decision felt like Doctor Who saying, we've run out of steam. In all honesty, and I never thought I'd say this, I think the show needs to go away, because under RTD and the Bad Wolf Studios gang, it'll be a slow, painful death instead. 1 out of 10. Abysmal.
Some valid criticisms, honestly, and like the misogynistic thing with Belinda, like I said, I can understand that. I didn't quite see it like that, but I can understand why people do. I totally do, honestly, absolutely. You will never have me subscribe to the idea that the show should go away, that the show should be paused. Like, things can be bad, but I think if we're actively wishing on a show we like to end, then maybe that, with all due respect, I'm sure Cal's a lovely person. To me, as an objective connected, that's maybe more to think about my own connection to a show. If I'm wishing for it to end, I'm like, maybe that means I should take a break from it rather than the show should take a break. And again, that means nothing against Cal. This is a genuinely objective thing. If I was at that point, I think I'd take a minute and go, maybe I should step away.
We're in a position now where we're essentially forcibly being made to have a break from the show, because there is absolutely no way that we're getting any Doctor Who in the next year and a half.
There are so many people who don't want it to end, and I think as soon as you go to that point of going, I think it should end, what about the people who are enjoying it? There are people who are enjoying it, and I think I'm saying that because I'm on that side. Just because everyone else is calling for it. I don't want it to end. I'm happy to just see where it goes. I like it inventing itself.
I understand. I can sort of see it both sides, if I'm entirely honest. Fair. I can see, the concerns of people who, love this show. I love the show so much. I love it. And the idea of it going away, and the terrifying idea of it not coming back for a very long time, or never coming back at all, which I don't think would ever happen. I think it would always survive in some form or another.
Yeah.
I completely understand that. I get that. But I also do see the point of there's some sort of, there's an aspect of, is there an argument of short-term pain for a bit of long-term gain?
Exactly.
Does the show need to have a little bit of a break and have, because we've basically done in a row 2 complete reboots in terms of Jodie, and then we've done a whole new reboot to the point where it's gone back to season 1 again.
Exactly.
That's where I'm confused about the future, because it's like I don't know whether it needs. I think what it needs is more than more than a break, is a reformat. I just
That's
don't
fair.
know if Doctor Who, as we've loved it previously, is going to survive out there in this world, because it's brutal. This TV landscape. And I wonder whether we need to be more open to the idea of Doctor Who changing more broadly, rather than just changing the production team, changing the cast, changing the vibe, changing the format, changing, what an episode of Doctor Who is, whether Doctor Who is an event for a few
Can
weeks.
I just say, I think it's a real shame that these arguments only exist because people don't particularly love the finale. And there are probably people who have it's been brought on for longer, sure. I don't want to reduce that, but it really feels like the Doctor Who fandom were two entirely different people before and after the reality war. Because this just was not on this level and this one episode is enough for everyone, like so many people to change their tune.
Yeah,
and it's kind of sad to see.
For me personally, this is something that I've felt for.
That's totally fair, yeah. Not to reduce that.
I thought Flux was like, maybe it wasn't perfect, maybe it had its issues, but I was like, I can, as a format change, I was like,
I liked it, yeah.
This is nice, this is great, and I just, I don't know. There's conversations to be had, isn't there? And I think, like you said,
I feel bad. I feel like I've been way too rude to Cal in my reply there. I really hope
you've not
that's
been rude
come
at
across.
all.
No, I do feel like it.
Cal's not going to take it personally at all.
I think in my head, the reason I'm saying what I'm saying is I'm thinking, imagine if the same things had been said at the end of Capaldi's run, because people didn't like Capaldi because he was too old to play the Doctor, or Stephen Moffat had run out of steam, or whatever criticism was levied at that time. Imagine if we hadn't got Jodie, or for people who love Shooty, whatever it might be. Think about if the same thing, it was said a lot of Jodie. The show needs to change, people aren't watching it as much. Anytime we say that, you don't know what's coming next. And right now, I think because what's coming next looks like it could be like the bottom of scraping so far at the bottom of the barrel, we've gone underground, that makes that point more valid. And I get it. But I just, like I said, I don't think I'll ever subscribe to the idea that the show should be paused because it's going in a direction people don't like, because it will constantly change and evolve. That's one thing that's so beautiful about it. Maybe not in the way people like, but it's never going to be the same for longer than a couple of years. Yeah. And I honestly think also because Russell filmed these 2 seasons back to back, and not so much was able to change, I think going into anything coming forward, there's no way he's not been aware of the criticisms this era has had and will not try at the very least to adapt to it. He, for everything people said, you think back to when he was announced as the next showrunner and all the love people had for him and his storytelling quality, that is still there. I think that is missed a little bit in some ways, but I honestly have faith that he can swing it back, and based on that feedback, I honestly don't see a world where, if we wait and we see what's going to happen, we could get something really good that takes the good stuff of Shooty's era and builds on the criticism that it's had from people, some very valid criticism, and makes something even better out of it. Yeah.
I hope so.
The optimist is trying to optimist.
No, you are beautifully optimistic. And
thank you, good sir. Thank you.
I do enjoy it. And I've always been one of these people who's like, I'm just happy that Doctor Who exists. I've got quite a low bar for enjoyment for Doctor Who, but the only reason why I've reached this point really is just there's a few moral stances Doctor Who's taken that don't sit right with me. There's a few creative decisions that just don't interest me, and I'm just like, well, I'm never going to clamour for I don't like this, so cancel it. But I don't know, maybe it's just a privilege that we can have these conversations after 62 years, eh? Maybe we've gotten here after 62 years, rather than
such a legacy.
People were having these conversations about the MCU 5 years ago when it was only 15 years old. Look at Doctor Who, eh?
Exactly.
We're staring down the barrel of 100 years in a few decades' time. We'll see where we'll still be here recording this episode, probably.
We're slowly folding the blanket up. It will disappear soon.
This is it. Don't worry, Troy. We're at the end. I've got some nice ones.
I still feel like I might have been too rude to Cal. I'm very
you haven't been too rude. Cal knows it's not personal at all. It's fine. It's a difference of opinion.
Maybe it's meta because Bad Wolf is making Doctor Who. Doctor Who is now Bad Wolf. Maybe that's it all along.
We're in new levels of copium here, mate.
I told you. The barrel is being scraped so far. We're underground. It's journey to the centre of the earth.
The Bad Wolf Corporation became real. Right. Some nice ones. There you go. Ben
Yay.
Byers, 97,
Yay.
on Instagram said, to go against the grain slightly, it's not the worst finale we've ever had. Yeah, sorry,
Ranskor.
that's the nice one. I think The Vanquishers and Ranskor still hold that title for me. There are scenes that work in a vacuum, and on a technical level, it's all very impressive. Jodie's cameo is lovely, and Ncuti's regeneration is great, even if who he turns into is interesting. I came out of it more confused and bewildered than infuriated, but this series has been hit and miss for me anyway. I can totally understand why people who loved it are so angry. It does Belinda and Punjabi's Rani dirty. Omega ends up being nothing, and the Poppy stuff made no sense at all. And ultimately, it feels like a finale to a different season of the show, not the one we just had, which I think is actually quite an interesting point. I can sort of see what he means there.
Intriguing.
And he put, it's a mess. Sorry for the mouthful. Please don't apologise, Ben.
Maybe that's because we kind of know that Ncuti could have maybe done a third season, and so some of this stuff would have been wrapped up in a third season, so it feels like a lot more of it's tied on in this one. That gives you that feeling. I could understand that, totally.
Yeah, and then Kate X Riley on Instagram said, right, I'm just going to say I liked and enjoyed it. Improvement on the last finale.
Can we be friends, Kate? Can we be friends, please?
Yes. Kate, hit Troy up. There was some stuff that could have been better, but to see the outright hatred for this episode is just too extreme and bizarre, in my opinion. So I think Kate is right there with you, Troy. You're not alone.
That's a new friend. I'm like Ncuti. I'm like 15 with Ruby. That's a new best friend right there. Message me, Kate. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, that was bloody Twitter. Hell of a week.
That wasn't too bad.
It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad.
That was all right. I'm grizzled. I'm a grizzled veteran of the reality war trenches.
You are, aren't we all? And speaking of being a grizzled veteran, we're gonna take a flash forward to the future for you, but the past for us. And we're gonna bring back Crispy. Ooh. There you go.
Aww.
Bit of magic. I'll do some jazzy editing. Or maybe I'll just leave this in and it'll look really, really, really bad. And then I'll just cut myself off mid-sentence. So, fuck the reality war. This is the real main event.
Oh, dear.
It is Troy versus Crispy in
Oh
Quiz
my gosh.
Chibnall. So, Quiz Chibnall. What we've got this week is Troy and Crispy going head to head. It's a simple game of categories. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you both a category, and there are many different answers. There are actually 32 possible answers. Don't worry, you don't have to get them all to this question. But what we're going to do is we're going to go back and forth, and basically it's a game of tennis with correct answers. Troy will go, give me an answer.
Okay.
Crispy goes, give me an answer, until someone gets one wrong, and whoever doesn't,
It's going to be a quick
wins.
game.
Now, your category, very fittingly, as we're celebrating the end of the 15th Doctor's era, is every character to appear in more than one episode inside the Ncuti Gatwa era.
Okay.
Now,
Gotcha.
Let's do it.
Gotcha.
some addendums.
No worries.
They have to have appeared in more than one episode in this era. They can't have appeared in one episode here and one episode in a previous era. Have to have been in 2 episodes. 2-parters count as separate episodes. So if someone's in both parts of a 2-parter, that counts. And they have to be credited as the same character in both. There are 32 possible answers of recurring characters.
Holy moly.
I say we let our guest from overseas go first, Crispy.
Mm-hmm.
Give me an answer. Basically, you've got a bit of a time limit. If I think you're taking the piss, I'll hurry you along. That's the deal.
Okay, this is good. I like this. Can I just say the Doctor?
You can say the 15th Doctor. I will accept that.
The 15th Doctor, Ncuti Gatwa,
I will accept that.
Appeared in 100% of the episodes.
Almost not.
73 yards.
Troy, go ahead.
The goat Ruby Sunday.
Ruby Sunday. See, this is the thing. We'll fire through a few.
Yeah.
We'll go quick,
I'm excited.
Crispy.
I'm excited.
Belinda Chandra. Belinda
Chandra is correct.
Kate Stewart.
Kate Lethbridge Stewart is correct.
Rose Noble.
Rose Noble is correct. This does include the giggle, by the way. I will clarify that.
Okay.
Oh.
Cool.
Interesting. Shirley Ann Bingham.
Shirley Ann Bingham is correct.
Mel.
Mel Bush.
Full
is
name.
correct.
Crispy. Put some
You don't have
respect
to,
on
it's
it.
okay. I'll accept
sorry,
it.
Mel Bush.
I know
sorry,
who he's
the
talking
Bush.
about. He's not talking about Mel and Sue. It's fine. I get it. Troy.
Colonel Ibrahim.
Colonel Ibrahim. Correct. I only just learned his first name was Christopher. I feel terrible for that.
Yeah, I keep forgetting it.
Oh,
I
there you
keep
go.
forgetting it.
Christopher.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
But Colonel Ibrahim just sounds metal. Just sounds
does.
like a dude.
it's cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Crispy.
Mrs. Flood.
Mrs. Flood / the Rani. They do count as one answer.
Slash
I am
the
not
Rani.
accepting the
Okay.
Rani from here on in. It's
Okay.
correct.
Mr. Conrad Clark.
Conrad Clark is correct.
Cherry Sunday.
Cherry Sunday is correct.
Carla Sunday.
Carla Sunday is correct.
Mm-hmm.
See, now I feel like we're getting into the territory of, ooh,
Yeah, well, this is
Were
tough,
they?
man. Conrad.
Already said it.
Conrad has already been
Oh, did
said.
you?
Crispy. Which
I was going to
What?
say,
I
are
thought you
we
said
allowed? Are we
Christopher.
allowed to be told one's already been said and get a chance to go again? Because I think that would be fair. Because there's a
do you
lot
want
of
to be
names we
fair?
could
Do
go
you want to be
through.
fair? Go on. I'll
I
give you
yeah.
another
I
go.
thought you said.
No,
I thought you said
I
I'll
Christopher.
said
give you
Mr.
one
Conrad
life
Clark.
fair.
I did. I'd
Oh
happy
my
for people
gosh.
just
Okay,
keep getting
sorry,
warned,
everyone.
and then when they run out, that's it. I'm all right with that.
Oh my gosh.
That's not how it works, Troy. That's
uh,
too kind.
I want to see how far I can go. I'm being selfish because
You
I've
are
got
not
like about
at
4
play
more names in
school
my head.
anymore, my friend.
Oh, okay,
You
I've
are
got
in
it,
the
I've got it.
Colosseum.
I've got it. Poppy.
Poppy is correct. Well done.
The Vlinks.
The fucking Flinks. Yeah.
Shut up.
Can I? I don't know if this counts. Oh, Susan Triad.
Susan Triad counts, yeah. Because she has also
Okay.
appeared as Susan Triad twice. Anyway,
Yeah,
so.
twice. Yeah, that's yep.
Morris Gibbons.
Morris Gibbons is correct. We mourn the loss of Morris Gibbons.
We
Another child lost to the Labour camps.
He was hit
of
by
UNIT.
another asteroid.
Yeah.
We're not doing like. Are we doing monsters?
Well, there's one very clear one you could go for. Just do it.
We are,
That was on-
yeah.
That was on my back burner.
Oh, I was just gonna say Sutek.
Yeah,
Sutek counts. Yeah,
absolutely.
you're fine with
Okay.
Sutek. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's
absolutely.
there's 2 in here. I will give you. I will say that it's a collection of things. It's not a singular character's name.
Okay,
It's a
okay.
name of a group.
Okay.
But there's 2 of those. But you are
Beatles.
over halfway through, I believe.
Okay, wow.
I'm
all
going
right.
to go for Rogue.
Rogue is correct.
Damn it!
Ah.
Damn you!
You've got
let's
14
go-
left. I think this might be the furthest we've gotten into a quiz Chibnall this season. So this is blockbuster stuff. I'm loving it.
Can I say Susan Carol Ann Ford because she
You
briefly
can
appears in
say
Wishworld? Okay.
Susan Foreman is correct because she is credited in Wishworld.
Yep.
So you've gotten away with it, yeah.
Has Anita been said yet?
Nope. You're allowed
Cool,
Anita.
cool,
Anita is
cool.
correct.
Gosh, damn.
Now you're
Can
in
I-
the tough zone.
Now
Now you're
I've
in
still
the-
got one. I'm still sat on one at least.
Can I say the name of someone that she's not credited? That she turned into a star at some point, and the star returned. But I can't say that. I don't think because I don't think she would be credited.
She wasn't credited, no, so I can't give you it.
That's fine. That's absolutely fine. We're gonna give you.
I thought you only had one life,
some
Josh.
more?
Oh, well,
I gave out a hypothetical.
No, I
talking
don't
out
care.
loud. He
I
was
want to see.
talking
I
out-
honestly want to see how far we can go, especially after what you said. I really want to see
Oh,
it.
mate, I think this.
You got
might
this,
be-
mate. Come on.
This might be it, man. I can't
You're essentially
think.
working together now at this point, and I quite like it.
I'm just happy. I want to see how far
Troy
we
is,
can go.
but Crispy's here like, I'm going to beat this fucker.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. Oh man, I've Belinda's mum. What's her name? Does she? Oh, is she not in? No.
She is an answer. She's in Wishworld
But-
as well.
Yes.
You? Oh, I was so sure. Yeah,
I
of
mean,
course.
it's
My
whether
bad.
I
My bad.
accept
My bad.
Belinda's mum as an answer rather than her full credited name. I'll give it. It's Lakshmi. Should we give him that? I'll give him that.
I
There you
still
go.
have at least one life, don't I?
I'll give you a life. Yeah, fuck it. It's the end of the series. Who cares?
Omega? Because technically,
Omega-
archival audio in Wish World, that was Omega, and then a new
Was
voice
that credited?
in
Don't think it's
reality War.
credited.
No, it absolutely is.
It's
Well,
not
I'm
credited.
not. I'm not. It's not on my list anyway. It's also a different actor.
Yeah,
Still,
there's
it's the
two
character. You
different
didn't say the
actors.
actor. You did not say the
That's
actor.
true.
I'm holding
So,
you to a technical.
yeah,
But he
so,
did
yeah,
say
but
it
I
had
don't
to be
know if it's
credited.
And I am firing up iPlayer to check the
Okay,
Wish World
check
credits
if it's
right
credited.
now.
If it's credited, I'll let you have it on a technicality.
And even if I don't, I've still got another one ready to go.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I reckon
Right,
you
here we
say
go.
that one.
Credits are here. Yep,
This
here
is
we
the
go.
beauty of Quiz Chibnall. It's just
I'm
descended
looking, here we go.
into
Absolute
arguments.
madness.
Wow, to be continued. I wonder how this one ends. Right.
Omega's 100% not there. Oh man, this is tough. I've got nothing
I don't
left.
see it.
I've got nothing.
Well, there
Yeah,
you go.
that's right.
You've burnt your life.
That's right.
Yeah, it's not there. It's not there. Fair enough. Fair
You've
play.
burnt your life.
That's kind of shocking. They don't have a credit for the archival
Yeah.
audio.
They just got the
Um,
big finished CDs out the cupboard and
Right.
wiped
Well,
it in.
does not knowing the surname make a difference? Because I can't remember her surname.
Give me it. I'll we'll
Louise,
see.
Ruby Sunday's birth mother.
That's fine. I'll give you that. Louise Miller.
That's it.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
She has a cup of tea in Lucky Day.
That is crazy. Can I say the Wish baby? God,
Not credited.
That's crazy.
Which
Alright,
is
well, that's
weird,
it.
isn't it?
I'm out.
That is
So-
crazy.
Well, I will say Troy has to get one right in order to win.
oh,
He'll get
well, that's
one
just
right.
evil.
He'll get
that's
one
just
right.
evil.
He's got this. He's a very smart man.
No, I've run out. Well, there's one I want to give, but I just know that she's not credited in the reality war. Like, I'm not gonna
There's some
bank
names
it.
here. Well,
I'm not gonna bank it, but I wants to say Joe Martin, but I don't think she'd be counted for being on the screen in the reality war.
she
I just
wasn't
don't-
credited. no.
Yeah. So I'm not locking that in. Okay. Think.
2 episodes. Damn. This is a great game, Josh, by the way. This is great.
You've done
What's her
incredibly
name?
well.
Is it Maddie, who is the one in the wheelchair in the camp, who's Shirley's friend?
She is a correct answer, but her name is not Maddie.
What is it? Millie? No, it's M something. It begins with M.
It's
Begins with
not.
M.
Flip it upside
What?
down.
It ends with an M?
I don't
No.
know. Wonder.
The
I
W.
don't
It
know.
starts with a W.
Crispy. Shall I give him it? It's just,
Yeah, that's clever.
yeah, go
That's
on.
clever.
It's
Thank you.
Winnie Petheridge.
Winnie.
Yeah, there
But
you go.
That's fine. You won. Well done. I'll give
Well
you
done,
that.
Troy.
Fuck it.
Well done.
It's the end of the series. I'm
Thank you,
tired.
thank
it's
you,
it's
thank you,
past
thank you.
midnight.
Yes,
This is the
sorry,
first
team.
recording that's gone across multiple days. So,
Oh yeah, good point.
I am. I'm willing to give you that. So, congratulations, Troy. You've won Quiz Chibnall. You have taken the crown. If you want to know the remaining answers, I'll fly
Please.
through them.
Please.
Let's go.
I'll go through the least obscure first. The Seekers. The
Oh,
Seeker
yeah.
things. The Drone Guards. Never got explained
course.
why they're there. That frustrated me.
The Ronnie
And,
just went, I'll have you.
yeah, Alice Sullivan. Me neither. Winston
Who are these
Chidozie.
people?
Hang on. Alice Sullivan, that's...
She's in Unit. She's something to do with Unit. I
Oh,
think
I
she's
thought
in
that was-
Empire of
oh,
Death.
that's
She
Alice
stands in
Fenley,
a
that's the
room
well.
or something.
Right, okay.
Winston Chidozie, who is the guard who gets killed by Sutek, but then gets
Oh, of
brought back
course.
in Empire of Death, which I never noticed.
Of course.
And
He does.
yeah, so he's the one who like goes behind in the time window.
The one who Ruby
And
has the
dies.
chat about Manchester, Cheetah Mill.
Oh.
Yeah.
He's the one who goes behind the TARDIS.
Harriet Arbinger from
yeah.
Legendary Ruby
Oh,
Sunday
yeah.
Empire of Death. Bailey Sinclair, another person who was the guy who was stood next to Susan Triad on the stage and then got killed immediately.
I see.
In
He
Empire of
did
Death.
come to mind, but I was like, he died in episode 7. But of course, yeah, he comes back to life
got-
in Empire of Death.
And then you've got, so these are very rogue names, but these three, I feel like you could have maybe got at a push.
Okay.
Two that come as a pair, Amal Rajan and Roger Ap Gwilym, who appear in 73 Yards
Oh.
and in the little clip in Empire of
Oh,
Death.
you
And they are
cheeky
both
It's
devil.
credited. Yep.
Yeah.
And the one, the only, the legend of Doctor Who, Trinity Wells.
That's why you said the giggle
good
counts.
one.
That's why I said the
Good
giggle.
one.
That's why you
I
said the giggle counts.
But
Clever.
fucking, you've basically cleared through a shit ton there. So fair play. And the
Let's
fact you
go,
got
Crispy.
like Winnie Petheridge, just about. Fair play. So that was Quiz Chibnall. This has been season 2 coverage.
Yay! Well
and
done.
It's been an absolute pleasure. And I just want to give you guys the floor for a moment. I know you've got to rush off, but I'm going to give you the floor to just plug whatever you want to plug. I don't know who wants to take it, but
Troy,
thank you for
you
having,
do this.
thank
You're
you for
good at the
coming on.
sell.
Me?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So our podcast is called Who's There, a Doctor Who podcast. You can find it on all good platforms. We have our YouTube, our Spotify, our Amazon, or whatever else. It's a podcast where you can call in and give your thoughts. So every week we have a topic. We list some callers. We discuss your thoughts. We basically use you for content. You know, it's the 21st century.
Correct.
It's great. It's
Absolutely.
great. No, but
We're good at
it's
generating content.
It's a genuine blast. It is genuinely a lovely time. We appreciate everyone who listens to us. And you should also go and check out that man over there, Mr. Crispypro, on YouTube. Go and check out his
Legendary
YouTube
Oh,
guy.
that's
content.
very kind.
Good
very
man.
kind.
He's a good man. He's a good man. You can check me out if you want on Red Archer Live for gaming stuff, but follow me on Twitter.
How
That's probably where
modest.
you'll like my yapping the most. Like go and follow me over there and like my tweets about the reality war so that I feel I have more people who agree with me. Although in fairness, during this recording, I've been noticing my phone. I tweeted earlier saying I watched the reality war again and I still adore it. I put fight me. It's been slowly building up likes while we've been recording. So I'm
Yeah.
like, that's nice. People agree.
Well,
That's lovely.
we've had a brawl today, and I've enjoyed
have.
it. I've enjoyed discussing the episode. I've had fun, and I've had fun with this series, and also for these two, I'll put all of the links down in the description. But for the past 8 weeks of season 2 coverage, you've been listening to Who Knew, a Doctor Who podcast. I've been your host, as always, Josh Carr. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. I just want to say I'm going to rapid fire through these. A thank you to all of my guests. Molly Marsh from Galactic Yo-Yo, Jack and Robin from An Awful Lot of Running, Ben and Miles from Knowing Who, Richard from Clever Dick Films, George and Cooper from Nostalgia Bait, Sam and Alistair from Hoo La La, David Chapaku from Who's There, and these two lovely lads. Fucking beautiful boys.
Thank you.
Absolute pleasure to have
Thank
you.
you very much.
And we will be back in a few weeks' time. All of the links to all my socials are in the description. You can find them all there. Please like, subscribe, share, comment. We'll be back in a few weeks' time. I might take a little bit of a break, but we've got 3
Rightfully
banging
sub.
episodes of Who Knew. 3 episodes coming up. We're continuing the Doctor Who podcast love with Damla and Elliot from Come Along Pond, 2 absolute legends. Then we've got one of the most prolific directors in New Who, in Doctor
So
Who
damn cool.
altogether. The one, the only Jamie Magnus Stone is joining me. And then after
Legendary.
that, I've got basically a national treasure, in my opinion, and one of my childhood heroes, legendary impressionist and the Big Finish's brigadier, John Culshaw. So
So cool.
if you've liked these,
So cool.
if you've liked these episodes of us chatting about Doctor Who, I basically interview the great and the good, including Troy, and maybe one day Crispy. Maybe Crispy.
Very
Make
soon.
it happen.
Very
Make it
soon.
happen.
It'll
Yes.
happen.
Make it happen.
It'll happen. I'm not
It
messing
will.
around, Josh. We're gonna
But-
do it.
Yes, please stick around if you've enjoyed these. Please, it's been an absolute joy covering these. It's been a joy. Oh no!
Don't
Sorry.
you dare, I'm gonna cry. Don't you dare.
It's been a Troy. It's been a Troy.
It's been a Troy.
doing this.
What does that mean? What does being a
Troy
Troy
to the
mean?
world.
It's been a Troy. Troy to the world.
Why did we not make that joke once?
I don't
Crispy?
know. But Josh, before you sign off, can I just congratulate you on 1,000 subscribers? It's been long
thank you very
overdue.
much.
It's been
Thank-
long
yes,
overdue.
We've recently
man.
hit 1,000 subscribers, and that is an absolute. It's a Troy. It's Troy.
Look how far you've come, man. Who knew?
Who
Who
knew?
knew? Who knew?
Needle
We'll finish
drop.
it there. Thank you for listening, everybody. Thank you, Troy and Crispy.
Thank you, mate.
Alan Z, baby.
Maybe the reality war was the friends we made along the way, eh? Bye.
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 Thanks for listening to Who Knew, a Doctor Who podcast. You can find us wherever you get your pods and on YouTube. Please give us a like, share, subscribe, and a review if you can. It really helps us out. Massive thanks to Oliver Chenery for the Corridor of Fame intro and the Sononauts for lending their cover of the Doctor Who theme to be the theme for the podcast. Who Knew is a New Kid Media production.